All right, hello, everybody. Sorry, I was a couple minutes late. Well, I guess we should get started.
I think we are recording still, aren't we?
Yes.
So we're missing Julian, but we do have a quorum, so we will move forward. Do we have any volunteers for a timekeeper and minutes taker? I can do time, but I don't want to take minutes. I think I'm going to be permanently off of minutes for the time being. I can do live edits on the doc, but
I used to have two reasons not to do minutes. Now I've got one. Can't hear what people are saying, but with a transcript, I'll give it a shot if that's okay with everyone, and with perhaps with proviso that I send it to co-chairs, if just to with questions that I may have. Or...
Do you know how to turn the live transcript on this, I wonder?
yeah, there is a way to do that, right? No, that's separate. So I think there's a live transcript for this, and then basically what Duncan does is he takes the recording and then runs it through Otter.
Oh, right.
Which I looked at, and it's all right, but it's definitely not a substitute. I don't know if there are settings that they can adjust,
Yeah.
but it was kind of rough. Like looking at the notes, looking at Jim's minutes, and then also like thinking about my own recollection of the meeting and having the transcript, it worked. Like it was very helpful to have to, as a supplemental resource,
Triangulate,
but
you could triangulate on.
yeah, but if you're expecting to just let Otter do the transcript and go back and write it up, like it doesn't seem like it's there yet. That's my own personal
It's
experience thus
helpful
far.
to Ian. That's what I was thinking.
Sure. Yeah.
During the event here.
When I took minutes 2 meetings ago, I was lightly reprimanded by MMC TV
Oh, I saw that.
for not noting the topic change and the time. So, and that was the meeting. Yeah, so I guess that's important to them.
That is something that I used to do. I would convey the timing relative to the agenda to Mount Mansfield, to Ruth there. And at our last meeting, I guess I slipped up on that. And so I didn't have those recordings. I was hoping a timekeeper would have them.
Right.
Anyway, in the end, we got them
Right.
to Ruth. But that is a task that someone should be doing, is noting the time when we start working on each item in the agenda, and then
I
sending
tried
it
to
promptly
do
to
that.
Ruth, who likes it the next day. Yeah.
So,
All right, so we've got captions. So you're going to do minutes you want to try minutes tonight?
Okay, I'll give it a try.
Unless somebody else wants to do it. I mean, I don't want to force you to do it, on account of.
Shall try.
Okay.
Sam, I'll do the timekeeping because I'm gonna note the time changes.
Okay, great. Cool. All right, we've got our timekeeper and our minutes taker. So next up, approving minutes from 2 meetings. We have both the August 25th meeting and the September 8th meeting.
I move to accept both sets of minutes,
The first or both?
both.
I'll second.
Cool. Any comments? No? Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead with the vote. No discussion.
Okay, it's not related to the discussion. Yeah, all in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Just let me, one really quick thing. I don't know if this is the right place for it, but during the meeting last week, there were, or 2 weeks ago, because of the pace of it and the number of speakers and such, some of the things that were said were, either just wrong, people raised questions that there wasn't time to answer them and stuff. So I put together a document doing that. I don't know if that would be appropriate as an addendum to the meeting. I got copies I can hand out to everyone, or just hand them out as an addendum to this meeting.
And it's linked in the agenda, itemized as with references, that's your document you're referring to?
Yeah, the agenda for today.
It isn't. It isn't in the I mean, is it in the packet?
So
No,
the, if we're discussing the minutes, then is that the minutes of the 25th, the minutes of the 8th, and the comments in references about?
yeah, these are sort of written comments. Maybe it'd be better as a separate deal.
I think it's better as separate. I just don't know what I guess I'm not sure what the process is for
Yeah.
minutes, and so I guess yeah, so I think it makes it more confusing by lumping them all together, although maybe I'm being a little hypocritical because I took a pass after Jim sent his minutes and updated a couple things, which it looks like he used that version, which includes an email from Bruce, because he emailed the like the committee email and basically wanted to for the record, adjust, basically response to his comments from the night before, a couple days before, basically saying that he was he misunderstood when the logging was. So that's
Right.
Hmm,
tacked onto the bottom of the minutes, just because he wanted to set the record straight. And I asked him about that, and he said, please include it in the minutes, which is why they made it in there. And I also think I put a little asterisk or something in brackets during that section of the discussion. So that seemed more appropriate, but I don't know, I guess maybe
think
yours
that-
as well.
Because the difference would be, he sent that around to everyone,
Mhm.
right? Saw it,
Yeah,
right? No one's seen this yet, so.
true.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's kind of unfair to tack it on.
Okay, cool.
It's in hindsight, now that I think so.
So,
And Brad, I would say if it's helping you organize your thoughts, I feel good about that, you know?
You said what?
If the document like that is helping you organize your thoughts
Yeah,
on that, kind of varied discussion, I feel good that you can represent the committee with, having that additional perspective. We don't necessarily all have to like study it and okay it, and does that make any sense?
well, I think it might, because,
think that's-
because everybody not, one of the revelations I had is that how many members of this committee don't have the history that a couple other members have.
Oh, yeah.
And for instance, this gentleman here asked.
Clueless.
Yes, clueless. But you asked the question, only because you didn't know the answer, so wow, is that on the transcript? And
So-
so I thought it might be helpful.
So maybe because I think there's this historical discussion coming, right? Maybe that's a good time.
I think what we should do is
include.
vote to approve the minutes. We can talk about it, I think, in the context of the soliciting select board feedback, because we want to have a brief discussion about what we want to say to the select board. And I think that Brad's document is helpful because what we're asking of the select board is directly tied to some of the comments we got last meeting. Because there was obviously some, criticism or concern about the current state of the committee and what we're pursuing. So my intention is to run that by the select board and see if they have any thing to say about how they would like us to move forward with a proposal for what I think we should do. And the document that Brad wrote up is pretty helpful in terms of setting the record straight on some of the comments that were made, which in the moment I had no idea whether or not those facts were true or not, and sort of the whole picture. So I do think it's very helpful. I don't know if we need a whole section to discuss it page by page, but it is a part of the record now that we have it on the agenda tonight. So that's good.
like, point of order, I guess. So I think we haven't voted on.
We have not.
Let's do
We've
it.
not voted on the minutes, so we're discussing them. So for clarification, there are two potential addendums to last meeting's minutes, those being what's referred to as references is one of them. The second is the email that came from Bruce Hennessy. So are they included in the motion to approve minutes, or will we address those two addendums as a separate item?
So the Bruce's email is already in the minutes that are linked in today's agenda. So if you're voting to approve the minutes, then you're voting to approve the inclusion of Bruce's email for as an addendum to last meeting. What we're not voting on currently is the document that Brad wrote up. Unless somebody would like to make, we are technically in discussion. So if somebody thinks that it's better for us to include that as an addendum to the meeting minutes as well, we could certainly do that. I guess,
Take time to read it, though.
yes, if you haven't read it, then it might be foolish to choose to, yeah, I've read it. I'm fine either way.
But it's 4 pages, so don't,
Right.
I think later.
Okay, so motion to approve both sets of minutes as they're currently in their current state, as linked on the town website now. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Great, moving on. Any additions?
Oh, actually, it could be just
Sure,
talk about any matters arising.
sure. Yeah, that's what I was
We
just
have.
going
I'd
into.
like to make a comment about the minutes that, considering what a lengthy and challenging meeting it was 2 weeks ago, the most recent meeting, the meeting of the September 8th. I was really impressed with several items. One was that Jim made a really good job of the minutes and summarizing some very complex discussions. That Sam, you made a really good job of running the meeting and maintaining
Yeah.
a pretty good semblance of order.
Mhm.
And given the unexpected and large scale delegation, I would say apparently a coordinated delegation of people attending the meeting. And thirdly, for Brad, well, and also Wright for having done some careful fact checking after the fact to verify some statements that not verify some statements. So I was just really impressed with how the committee members pulled together to handle that and make a good written record of what occurred.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say, I'm sorry I missed the last meeting, but I watched it and I really want to appreciate the collaboration and respectful communication that this committee has.
Yeah, I think all things considered, it went pretty well. I think it is a testament to the current composition of the committee, and that I've heard that previous iterations of it, things have gotten a little bit more heated, and so we were able to weather that pretty civilly, I think. So yeah, it's good that. I mean, I think despite there being a little bump in the road there, and us needing to maybe take a little, detour to consult with the select board again, I think that it could have shaken things up a lot more. So I appreciate you all for helping with keeping the discussion civil and handling a lot of that. I know I had to lean on a few folks for context on some of the things that were mentioned, since it was a bit beyond my history here. So I appreciate that. That said, do we have any additions or changes to the agenda? Doesn't look like we have any public here, so I guess there's no public comment. No, okay. Great. So we'll move on to the statement from the co-chair. So I don't know if I can read this out loud or I can just call attention to it. I don't know if folks have read it. Because there's no public here, it seems a little bit weirder, but I suppose I'll just read it. Just because I think it helps sort of refocus how we may want to be running our meetings moving forward. We don't have a whole lot of visitors today, but in the future we might, and I know we're really trying to finish the management plan. And so I think a lot of this is sort of a reminder to me to kind of keep things on track. But just so we can keep moving forward and not spin our wheels, I'll just run through it. So I would like to open tonight's meeting by reflecting on and responding to the events of our last meeting. We received a significant amount of public feedback regarding the committee's current assignment and direction, and I want to thank all those who have taken the time to share their thoughts. Since that meeting was only 2 weeks ago, we are still in the process of reviewing and organizing the feedback. This includes constructing a clear timeline of events and gathering materials to support both the timeline and the various testimonies. The goal is to create an objective and accessible record for all interested parties. Because this work is still underway, the chairs have deemed it unwise for the committee to continue those discussions at this meeting. We want to be clear, the feedback has not been ignored or forgotten. Following this statement, I will propose that the committee agree on a brief set of facts to present to the select board so that we may receive guidance on how they would like us to proceed. The main options are: one, continue with the revisions to the existing management plan and take additional feedback once a complete draft is ready for review, or pause the work in order to gather immediate community input and address questions and suggestions. We can discuss these options further in a moment. I would also like to remind everybody of committee procedure. While we encourage public engagement, the format of public comment may need to be adjusted and adjusted temporarily in order to complete the work on the management plan. This is consistent with the town and state policy. As many recall, we spent nearly 2 hours on public comment at our last meeting, which, if repeated, would prevent us from moving forward with our charge. To clarify, one, public meetings are not intended to function as Q&A sessions. They're primarily for the committee to address the agenda. Two, public comment may be limited to a single period of up to 10 minutes per meeting. Three, standard procedure is for the committee to discuss agenda items first with public comment following. The chair will indicate when public comment is open and will recognize speakers. I intend to run meetings in a flexible and welcoming way, but it is important that we follow these ground rules so that the committee can do its work. It is the chair's responsibility to maintain order and keep discussion on topic, and I will do my best to uphold that. Stating these expectations clearly helps me as much as it helps everyone else. And the committee looks forward to continuing to foster constructive dialogue and to carefully consider public input as we move forward with the final revisions of the management plan. And so, yeah, that might be something you guys already all read, but I figured it was worth just getting out there, especially just talking about the process with the public comment and how we want to handle that moving forward. Especially, I want to get it out there. I know today we've got a big chunk of time that we're going to be working on the management plan. I was thinking, well, what if we get, a bunch of visitors that all want to, submit comment on us trying to work on the management plan? Like, what would that look like? Which is why I wanted to reiterate these rules, because I think that when we have public present, the plan will be for us to have our discussion. And then, at the end of each item, maybe if we have an hour and 45-minute block of just working on the management plan, it won't be limited to one single public feedback at the end. But generally speaking, I would like for us to have bigger blocks of time for just the 8 of us to talk. And then we can get a few comments versus it got very conversational bouncing back between the committee and the public, which is fine. And I wish we had more time to do that. But ultimately, we're having enough trouble as it is getting this management plan done. So we could, spend endless time. So yeah, any questions? Ian?
I also wanted to raise the issue of public comment and referencing what you've just read from your statement, but also the agenda. So what if we've been doing recently with the agenda is listing at the outset public comment for non-agenda items.
Yes.
And then the note that at the end of any, I think in effect at the end of a discussion of any agenda item, then public can indicate a desire to comment. So what you've written here is not exactly consistent with that, implying, while stating that there would be one period of public comment as opposed to one at the outset for non-agenda items and then an invitation to comment on items as we work through them.
So I will point out that I said public comment may be limited to a single period of up to 10 minutes per meeting. So I was basically just trying to set expectations that technically that is within the policy for us to just accept only feedback for, a 10-minute window. And then, to get, to basically respond to that feedback in the future. And I also followed that up by saying, I intend to run meetings in a flexible and welcoming way. Maybe I could have been more clear, but I'm not necessarily saying I'm trying to lock things down, so that people can't comment. I still want people to give us feedback, but obviously I probably should have cut things off, way sooner than I did last time. So I can adjust this if we think that if we want to re-release it with slightly different, text, just to make it look a little bit more welcoming for folks.
I think I'd say that's good, and noting that all the comments that you've just made about when and how public comments can be welcome, but also, you know, recognizing that it's the chair's responsibility to run the meeting and
Yes.
the discretion of the chair, and indeed, you know, the note at the end of committee business currently states, chairperson may recognize
Mhm.
public comment.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I guess another thing is just to make sure that we're all on the same page and I'm not catching anybody off guard. You know, if things do get a little busy in a future meeting and I cut things off, that I just don't want there to be any surprises if I adhere to anything in this statement, that I've at least, you know, laid out some ground rules just so folks know, like, I'm not being the committee dictator, but I'm just trying to keep things moving forward. So if there's anything in here that seems inappropriate or that we shouldn't be following, now would be a good time to mention it. Right.
I'm just gonna add, I think it was appropriate to allow the public plenty of time
Yeah.
at the last meeting to, because they had strong opinions.
Yes, they did.
And we need to hear those, and I didn't view it as disruptive. I viewed it as an opportunity that we needed to listen.
Mhm.
And
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I kind of felt the same way, which is why it went so long.
Yeah.
But doing that every meeting obviously would not work.
No.
And since we hadn't had a meeting like that in months, if not, you know, at least as long as I've been on the committee,
Right.
it seems like it was worth trying to, you know, listen to everybody's feedback and not say like, hey, sorry, you know, I'm going to give you 10 minutes and then just cut you off. But if we constantly get feedback like this, I think what I would probably do, if it's on a non-agenda item, I would say, all right, we're going to set a 10-minute timer. As many people as want to comment can comment. We're going to give you each 2 minutes. We're going to collect as much feedback as we can get through in 10 minutes. We're going to write that down. We'll talk about it at a future meeting, right? Like maybe it'll be in the next agenda, because as I mentioned in the last meeting, if it's not on the agenda and it's not warned and you just have a bunch of folks with one opinion showing up to a meeting, it's not really fair to the community to have a big discussion about something that people with other viewpoints, you know, can't be a part of the discussion for. So, that's probably how I'll handle in the future if it seems like we're getting an abundance of feedback, is to just take it, write it down, and then we can put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Yep.
Cool. We good to move on?
Yep.
Great. Okay, so that rolls pretty nicely into the next item, soliciting select board feedback, which is how do we move forward after last meeting? Obviously, there were a lot of questions about, you know, a number of things, such as, you know, why did the former management plan never make it to the select board? And why does the current management plan look so different than the past committee's version of it? And
It was the trail plan, right?
there's the trail plan, yes. Yeah, there's the trail plan and there's the management plan. And so there was the trail plan, which a former iteration of this committee was mostly in support of. I mean, they did vote, the majority voted to approve it.
But
However,
the management plan was never,
the management plan had not been updated, and based on the original management plan, if it deviated from the concept map, then the management plan would also need to be updated, which is how we ended up here.
Right,
You know,
right.
us being currently in our, you know, sort of massive overhaul of the,
Yep.
you know, of the management plan, what we're, you know, referring to as, you know, MP2, I guess, is because of that.
Right.
And in the process, you know, we've basically, you know, dug up more, you know, science, and we've redone a lot of these versions, or a lot of the sections in the management plan, and we've realized, oh, well, maybe that approved trail plan, the not the concept map, but the next iteration that was voted on, maybe that wasn't as, you know, as responsible as it was made out to be at the time. And my understanding is that, you know, this version of the committee is within its right to make adjustments, because that's what we've been empowered to do. And that's part of why there was a requirement to update the management plan if a new trail design deviated from the concept map, because I think there was a hope that this committee would do due diligence in making sure that any future trail maps would be, you know, responsible and adhering to, you
And
know,
so
the interest
the,
of everyone in the community.
that trail plan, it didn't go, it wasn't formally presented to the select board, but there was feedback from the select board that sort of killed it. Was that?
That is
Alright.
part of it. I mean, it kind of got killed because half the committee left. And part of that was because of direct feedback. My understanding based on,
Email thing?
yes.
Okay. Okay.
Well, some chronology as I'm remembering it, and I think it's documented. What was presented at the school meeting. Well, first of all, the trails plan as presented by, as offered by Arrowwood University was offered to the public for written comment. And I think that was in November of 22. And then in March of 23, there was a meeting at the school, which was really based around an initial, well, I mean, at that point, I think a revised management plan. It was a revision of the 2018. And so that's what was inherited by what we, as the committee as we have it now, we inherited in March 23 of a somewhat revised management plan, which I don't think was ever subjected to a vote and certainly never went to the select board. And we've continued, and if that's an accurate summary.
It is.
I think the dates might be a little off, but you know, the chronology is, as I remember it anyway.
So soliciting select board feedback now would be really in response to our last meeting?
Basically, yes, because right now our choices are ignore the feedback, you know, and just make a statement saying, you know, we listened to you, but we're deciding to just continue to work on the management plan, or do something else. You know, there was a lot of pressure and, you know, interest in maybe having us hold some kind of public feedback meeting. I don't know if it would be like the middle school meeting or if it would be something else, if it would be just us in the community, or if it would be us in the select board in the community, or what that would look like. But to me, I want the process to remain, you know, transparent and like we're actually, you know, we're accepting public feedback. Even though we haven't solicited it, you know, people can still give their public feedback. And so my concern would be if we just continue to go about our business working on the management plan without really addressing that meeting and some of that feedback formally, that the optics of that look pretty bad, even if we are intending on getting public feedback sort of at the end of the like copy editing cycle. I think that it would be helpful for us to get a little bit of guidance from the select board just to make sure we are doing the right thing.
So the main issue, at least at the last meeting, was the no mountain bikes north of the dividing line, right?
Well, there's a few. So if we go to the document that I posted, that's in the packet, rather than like write it all out, it's just bulleted, which is essentially what I would be sending to the select board, except for I have a draft version of this that's more fleshed out in its actual like paragraphs. I figured it'd be easier to just discuss this in bullet form rather than make everybody like
Gotcha.
read the whole thing. But essentially gives a little bit of background about sort of, you know, the committee history and like what we've been working on. And then the current situation, you know, which is that there's been a recent surge in public attendance focused on mountain bike access and the Sip of Sunshine connection. Some of the attendee concerns included the committee direction, the lack of Arrowwood and Sinuosity trails, the scale of revisions to the management plan versus the input, the public input, and then the recreation section, including the moratorium on bikes and dogs in the Northern Forest. And then also the current situation involves like, you know, basically figuring out the timeline and then, you know, just laying out that the committee is at a crossroads, either finish the plan or pause for more public input now. And, you know, I also lay out a few responses to some of the concerns that the latest revisions are consistent with the original management plan and the easement and the town plan. Prior trail proposals were shaped by assumptions and doing a little bit of digging. For example, the Sip of Sunshine connection was never required, except for in the RFP that went to the trail designers. So a lot of, I think there were a few times in the meeting where it was mentioned that that connection was somehow guaranteed or, but really, I think what happened is trail connectivity was mentioned, generally speaking, in the first management plan, and the concept map happened to connect to SIP. And I think people just kind of put two and two together and said, oh, we're going to get a connecting trail to SIP. So I thought it worth pointing out that kind of like what Brad did with this document, which is to ensure that anything that was stated on the record that wasn't necessarily 100% true, that like the context was provided to make sure that people could understand sort of, the current state of things. And then I guess I also kind of, maybe it's not worth including, I guess this is why I wanted to talk about it as a committee before going to the select board, is my slight frustration with the fact that we've had consistent vacant recreation seats on the committee, followed by, a huge public comment period specifically on recreational stuff. To me, I feel like there's been a mechanism built into this committee to specifically provide feedback from all sides. And for whatever reason, the recreation or the Trails Committee has basically chosen to leave those seats vacant,
Well, they haven't chosen to leave them vacant. They just can't find anyone to fill them.
Sure.
That's why I'm on this.
Yeah, I hear
Because There
you.
was so much burnout.
Yeah.
That I felt like.
Yeah, I got you.
Everybody's dropping out of this thing. Maybe I can
Yeah.
take a turn.
And I hear you. I had a similar experience. That's why I'm here, is
Yeah.
because nobody else on RCC wanted to be on this committee, because of burnout and whatnot. But the fact remains, like, I stepped up, you stepped up, right? And if you hadn't stepped up, then your seat would have been vacant for almost a full 2 years. And then, Chase's seat hasn't been filled since he left. So that's also something that I think is maybe worth representing in the context of talking to select board about this, because we are trying to accept public feedback, but it seems like a little bit, I don't know, I don't want to say, I don't know, it's not really using the process that was designed, designed by the select board and by the town for this committee. It's supposed to be somewhat democratic.
Yep.
And that's why there are specific seats for recreation and conservation interests on the committee. And to basically ignore the built-in mechanism, and then at the end to say like, hey, this isn't fair, to me seems a little bit silly. Even if you're having a hard time getting people to get on the committee,
Yeah.
I don't know, that's kind of something that the Trails Committee needs to work out if they're having a hard time with recruitment.
Yep.
Yeah. So, your third bullet, you're as recreation seats, well, technically as
Trails,
Trails Committee
yes.
seat. And then you mentioned the 1824 months. Well, Jim has sort of clarified that he is as recommended by the Trails Committee, but the Trails Committee position, the person who sits on both committees, that's actually like 4 months, I suppose.
Yeah, so
That it's been vacant.
basically what I did is I just tallied up, like all the months, like the last couple of years, and I included both seats and was basically saying over the course, I could say this better and I will, in a statement to the select board, is that over the course of 2 years, there was at least one vacancy in either the representative or the recommendation seat for Trails for 18 out of 24 months. So that's, a year and a half out of the last 2 years, at least one open seat was vacant. That includes the time that the seat was open before Jimmy was on the committee, and then also since
Just a seat.
I wasn't, well, there were, but I'm not counting those. The at-large seat, I think you ended up applying for, and the conservation recommendation was Brad.
But it might be that there were vacancies,
There may have been other vacancies too. And yeah, I could just cut it entirely. It might be, maybe it's just making things more divisive. This is why I didn't want to just write up a statement, talk to Duncan and say, hey, I want to talk to the select board, because I'm not trying to do this like unilaterally. I do feel like we could use a little bit of direction. I don't think we need a ton of guidance. At the end of this document, I have a proposal. I know from the last time or a couple times ago when we talked to the select board, they were like, well, what do you want from us, right? They want a proposal. They want some guidance on what we're asking them for. And so my proposal is we finish the draft management plan. Basically, we follow the timeline, that the flow chart that I created, which is finish the draft. There's the committee review process. There's the public feedback period. And then if the select board deems it appropriate to have like a dedicated public feedback meeting rather than just us getting, like online feedback or something. But I think that's kind of up to them because this is a special committee that kind of has its own special set of rules that have been, which I didn't kind of realize until that 2 years ago, the select board updated some of the things, like how appointees are put on this committee. It used to be sort of like self-appointed membership, and now those have to
Not
go.
officially.
Okay.
Maybe in practice.
But yeah, before, it seems like that was adjusted by the select board to make
It was
it,
emphasized, let's say, yeah.
yeah.
So
So-
the proposal is like proposal moving forward?
Yeah, exactly. So my plan is just kind of lay out the history, what happened at the meeting, that there's interest in, and concern based on like our current trajectory, a quick response to some of those concerns, and then a proposal to move forward by finishing the management plan. And then that way, we've talked about it to the select board, those meetings are usually pretty well attended. So anyone who's interested in town goings on will see, okay, well, the ACFC is not trying to like force through some management plan that's not popular, and that will have sort of gone to the select board for their blessing to continue with our current plan.
Do you think, I feel like for the select board, they should also see some other things happening, like.
Like what?
Connection to Maple Wind is an item that we can, sort of work off of, right?
Stuff in non-planned stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff in the forest.
Stuff in the
Success.
other, yeah, exactly.
Success.
Well, and
Like
no,
what?
but also what else we're planning, like there's a potential to improve the Bass Trail where
Yeah.
it's wet. And here's what we're thinking.
Yeah, I think
And I think,
we have general plans for those, but those aren't really in the management plan yet, or they won't be, right? Those will be things
yeah, but
that,
those are things that are in the this is what I think one of my takeaways from that last meeting was, we have a management plan, right? The town forest exists.
yes,
We can do things.
yes, we can.
This is sort of Melissa's gripe at the end of her tenure, right? Like,
Yeah.
let's keep doing the things that we can do within the guidelines of our current management plan.
Yeah.
And not just say, oh, we're gonna finish, yeah, we should also finish the new management plan, but in the meantime, I think for the select board, it'd be important to show, here's what we've done and here's what we're doing and planning on doing while this is playing out.
Yeah, I believe that those, some of those were presented by, maybe it was Ian or someone at a somewhat, in the last maybe 6 months or so, we kind of did have a check-in of some kind, or maybe it was on Front Porch Forum or something, and we can give them, I'm prepared to answer those types of questions if they ask them.
But having a bullet, I think would
Okay,
go a long way, especially with that energy that we had last week. I think if those folks could, sort of recognize that, oh, well, there is this new Maple Wind Trail that connects to the town forest, and it's
Yeah.
a really positive thing, and there's some recreation that's happening on and with the town forest.
yeah, Dan?
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
Okay.
Just a bullet that shows our successes, things that we're doing.
Do we,
Overall, I mean, I think we should try to stay on track because we're really close and this committee's been working together well and made some hard-earned compromises. We're really trying to balance a lot of different recreational users and follow best practices to protect the ecological value of the forest. So I feel like we've been working together well. We've made a lot of progress, and
So maybe
this
just
would
sort
be a
of,
good time to kind of stay on track, highlight some of the things that we are doing now, and
maybe stay a little bit insulated from that public feedback. Is that what
Well,
you're
I think
saying?
we need to make sure we're not trying to make everybody happy. Cause I don't think that's gonna happen.
I mean, I
And-
think, sorry.
No, I apologize. I think I interrupted you first, but thank you. Would it serve our mission and would it serve the forest? Not necessarily to have a special meeting for public input, but to invite it in writing
Yeah,
so that we can have exactly what it is they're trying to express, collate it and assess it and then bring it to the meetings.
Invite the feedback.
Correct.
So
That feels like it would be a lot more positive and easier to sort of implement any
Yeah.
changes.
Right,
So,
right now, it's kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
oh, Brad's probably next. If I can go after Brad.
No, go.
Go ahead. Well, what I'm seeing is under current situation, the fourth bullet is raising a question. Finish plan versus pause for more public process. And what I'm hearing is, if I'm correct, I'm hearing the committee says the first of those, finish.
Right.
Sonia was just making it clear to finish a management plan that we believe we can put out there for public comment. So the finish plan versus pause. The consensus is finish plan.
Because we
Yeah.
can always,
Augment it with some activities beyond the plan that are going on.
Yeah, I think that just sort
Yeah,
of sells
sure.
the,
And then maybe, but Sonia was saying, ask for, I don't know who.
Invite it.
Representative. Bring some of those points in writing, because they were kind of, they're coming in from all directions. It's hard to respond to them there, then and there. I like the idea of trying to respond to them, because I know one of the frustrations back in the old days, when I wasn't on the committee, was trying to get a response. They would listen and then always talk about, we listen. We are really good at listening, but that was it. You never heard, any feedback on what you said. And, well, that's a bunch of baloney. Something that would even be welcome.
and it's completely open because you bring it to the meeting, or we could even post a summary, not even a summary, the exact input that was offered by the public. And then in the meeting, sort of determine how we want to respond,
Yeah,
how we should respond. Yeah.
you think
Yeah.
like a,
Still wanted to
like a
finish your thought.
survey, is that how that would?
Okay.
yeah, I feel like we could either just invite people to email the committee Gmail account, or we could have a survey with a link on our town website page. I guess my only concern with this is that maybe I'm conflating some discussions on this committee with what the Conservation Commission talked about, but my concern is like sort of too many cooks in the kitchen, even without the public feedback, it's been pretty slow going in terms of getting some of this stuff done. And because of that, I feel like if all of a sudden we're inviting more comment before, like my hope was that we finished this, and I've even been telling RCC, like, hey, I know you guys like would love to get a hand on the ball here, but let us finish, and then we'll give you a copy, and you're gonna get, 6 or 8 weeks or whatever to look at it, and then you can give us your feedback. And then we'll, integrate it and move on to the next step, rather than trying to get everyone's comments from every step of the way. I think that you could potentially end up with a timeline that's much, much longer because,
Well, it wouldn't be a bottleneck. It wouldn't be we're not going until we get this and figure out what people are saying. We can always tweak it. If it turns out that 79% of the community wants more trails, that creates an obligation on our part to pivot.
Mm-hmm.
And so we would pivot, but in the absence of that, we don't lose time.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I guess, should I put that in the proposal section then? That we or under the public feedback period, so.
I thought we were gonna finish our management plan,
Mhm.
get it cleaned up, and then put it out and get the feedback.
No.
Is that what you're suggesting? Is that we finish and then?
At any point, really, because I was just suggesting that we put this in a,
Kind of ask some specific questions, like about trails or dogs or
right, and get
the
it,
tricky issues.
get their input in writing as opposed to in a meeting, which is going to take organization, and in the moment, we want to be able to respond to people, and
Yep.
it's
Well,
more time consuming.
I can add, do you want me to propose something specific to the select board, or do you want me to ask what their opinion is on how we should be taking public feedback at this point in time?
That might be a good way to.
I feel like we shouldn't take it until we're done. And then there's that period between when, basically there's if you remember the flow chart, like we basically finish and then it is gonna go to the copy editor, but at the same time, like they're gonna do their one pass on it, but I'm pretty sure any minor tweaks we can integrate in without needing to tap the copy editor again. So basically, at that point, maybe we opened it up for public comment a little earlier at the same time that we're opening it up for comment by the Trails Committee and the Conservation Commission and like the advanced copy that goes to the select board. So maybe we would like move it up a little bit, so we're getting public feedback sooner, but I feel like to open up the public feedback now is just gonna slow us down in a way that we really don't need. I think trying to stay on task
Fair.
so that we can
Mhm.
finish, this committee's work on the management plan before we then start getting that feedback, I think would be good. But I'm certainly
Yeah, no
open to,
bottlenecks allowed,
Is
yes.
the,
Well, my question is, do we need to check in with the select board? Because we've checked in 2 or 3 times, I think, on specific issues while I've been serving on the committee. Does the select board want to hear from us?
okay, here's a
What-
thought. Yeah, I like that. So how about this? I was gonna basically frame this as the bullets are set up and basically say like, here's where we are, here's what happened at this meeting, and like, we just want to make sure we're doing the right thing to proceed. I can just write up that statement, send it to Duncan and say like, can you just give this to the select board and then if they want to put 10 minutes on their meeting, like I'll show up and I'll talk to the select board about it. Otherwise, I can just say like, here's our plan. Let us know if we're doing things wrong. Like, I do think that for us to continue with that proposal, which is finish the management plan and then move on to the public feedback after, is the right way to go. And if they're cool with that, then we could avoid needing to talk to the select board publicly, but I don't think any single member of the select board nor the town manager can just unilaterally make a decision on like what ACFC is supposed to be doing right now.
We have 2 minutes.
yeah,
Okay.
that's a good thought. That's a good idea. I guess the only other thing would be just have a one-on-one
Already did.
with Adam.
I had, yeah, with Bard. I talked
with
to
Bard.
Bard about some of the stuff.
Okay,
So-
so I feel like you did the whole thing.
Well, sort of, but again, like, we just generally talked about some of the like challenges and some of the like, the friction from last meeting, but like he
Was
he
it
can't-
helpful?
yeah, it was definitely helpful, but he can't make a decision for the entire select board.
No, but
So like we had a chat and I was just like, hey, can I get your thoughts on this? Because like I'm a new chair and this
Yeah.
was like, just kind of, I was a little blindsided by what happened at that meeting and needed some guidance. So
it was kind of.
now that we're 2 weeks away, like it doesn't feel quite as urgent, but like writing this up in the days following the meeting, it felt very relevant, at least to me, especially as the person who's going to be taking a lot of the heat if there's a bunch of people showing up to the meeting. What I don't want to do is just say, we're not going to talk to the select board. And then next meeting, we get 15 people showing up that are complaining again, saying like, hey, we gave you a bunch of public feedback and you ignored us. Like, so that's what I'm trying to plan for, is to make sure that we're being transparent and we're making sure that our like mission as ACFC is being followed, because we are working at the pleasure of the select board. And I want to make sure that we're not just veering off road and just doing our own thing.
So, but Ed, do you feel like Bard, he didn't really answer that, or?
I mean, he gave some like general advice, but again, like I still don't think it's a bad idea to at least check in with the select board in some way.
In that-
Because there isn't really like a hard and fast rule for like, here's what you do when you get a bunch of public feedback at a meeting when people are not happy, right? So,
We're sort of due to
yeah, so
check.
I don't know. I feel like I could just write it up as hey, here's something that, the select board should read. I could just BCC them all on an email and say like, hey, here's like a check-in.
That seems
And then,
reasonable. If you met
and
with
then just
Boston
say, like,
and then.
yeah,
and you
email me back if you want this on your select board
Yeah.
agenda to discuss
That's like a
further.
Good strategy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so takeaways are, do we want to list what accomplishments do we want to list other than Maple Wind Farm connection? I mean,
I don't know if I'm not so much worried about well, maybe that is important, just that for the folks who feel like nothing is happening, we can give them a little,
I guess, though, that kind of, yeah, the downside to mentioning Maple Wind Farm is like, we don't really have, like, and like, we didn't really have a hand in that, like, you know,
That's-
Bruce and
but we
Merrick
have
showed
to-
up.
We have to accept it, and we did accept it.
Sure.
The connection.
Sure, that's true.
and I think it's, yeah,
It's
it's
prompted
time.
vast, look at the vast drill in a whole new
Yeah.
light.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's,
We can call it out for people who are frustrated, who are saying like, hey, there's no connections. I want to be able to connect to other properties,
it's a-
which is why I kind of wanted to just keep that as like a response point if it was brought up.
We also connected to VYCC, it sounds
Yeah.
like.
Well, it was already connected, right?
Well, I mean, that was the first time I realized that you're allowed to mountain bike there.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
then through Maple Wind Farm, we've made this new connection, which is great.
yeah, yeah. Again, I just feel like we didn't do anything specifically to make that happen. There was the existing infrastructure to make it to BYCC. And so we're basically
it fits with the
potentially just
management
claiming other
plan.
people's accomplishments, which I think makes us look bad. Because then we're like,
I think it's noteworthy.
yeah,
I don't know,
Okay.
I feel like. Yeah, as a person who, uses those trails and I think I'm really excited about how it. Meshes with the town forest, and I think it's for sure something that is worth. Highlighting.
okay. So I can put in a thing about Maple Wind Farm and BYCC connections in the current situation section. Is there
Yeah.
anything else we want to call
I'm
out?
just saying that, we're excited about it, or we're.
Okay,
Looking ahead,
Happy.
signs.
What's that?
Yeah,
We said
it's-
great.
Yeah, yeah.
Maintenance.
It's-
There'll probably be more maintenance.
yeah,
Attention on this, we want to put signs up at probably all entrances, saying welcome.
yeah. Yeah, I just think the bulk of our accomplishments have been in the management plan,
Oh,
Oh, for
by
sure.
far, and we've done a ton of work, but again, until it's done, a lot of people are like, it's like seeing a loading bar with no like percentage indicator where you're like, is this ever going to be done? And then you might be at 99% and then all of a sudden it's done, right? But people don't know if you're at like 50% or if you're at 99%.
Oh,
That's a
the
brilliant-
management plan is like the foundation of a house, it's all underground, nobody really sees it.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the structure goes up.
yeah, right.
So we're laying the foundation.
Cool. So I think I'm pretty much good. I can also note, I can. The public feedback possibilities, I'll give that, I guess, a little bit of thought and try to make sure that I relay what we talked about in terms of like. I think, do we all agree we should finish the management plan and then maybe open it up for public feedback around the same time we're getting the committee feedback? So we slightly alter the flow chart and then we wouldn't have like public, like a meeting style comment until after it's come back.
Yeah, just so, we're always a public feedback.
Sure,
that's
sure.
all. So
But I
just
mean, like
make sure you-
soliciting
Yeah,
public feedback.
Yeah, I think that's good because, right now, it's what is the management plan, but I think once this is done, people may be surprised at what's in it, some of the mitigations, that are in there are new and novel, I think, what's the deviation, I guess we haven't really talked about that yet, but it's coming up, gang. But the deviation ideas, I think are really clever. And the overall reasoning, and what's behind all this, so I think it's good if people have that and comment on that, not on what, they might have heard in hearsay, because you could see the hearsay at that last meeting.
Yeah.
I mean, some of these misconceptions start getting talked about, and people can get up in arms, and really, may not even happen that way.
Okay, cool. I think I'm good. I'll just touch up what I have. Mention the connection. I can mention like the kiosk sign and sheet thing too. Like if we want to tout some, I can go look back and see if there's anything else we want to discuss. I mean, wasn't there the agreement that you worked out with the Velco? Like that was within the last year. So that could be on the list of accomplishments. I know that at some point Ian had a list of ACFC's accomplishments, so I could probably pull from that. I think it included the work that you did on that agreement. Yeah, okay, so I'll find that. I can pull a few things from that. So there's that, and then mention the slightly altered public feedback. So I can slightly adjust the flow chart too, I guess, just to indicate that when it goes out to those 3 committees that we're also sending it out for, or like opening it up for like online, I guess, like soliciting public feedback, because that's the one other change that we would see in the flow chart. And then finally, I'm just gonna kind of tell the select board what we're doing, and that if they want to talk to us further, that we'd be happy to come, or that I or some collection of us would be happy to come speak to them at a select board meeting. Everyone cool with that?
Sounds good.
Great. Update. Okay, great. And moving on, I think we're finally getting back into
Hemlock.
the management plan again.
Those poor hemlocks.
Is that where we left off?
We were right around Hemlock.
What documents are we in now?
So I think we'll probably do the same thing that I've been doing. Let me join this meeting and just share my screen. I mean, so in the agenda, there are links. They're not in the packet, but in revisions of management plan, we have PDF versions of these things. So there's the B6, 9/125. That's
the one we're working on.
that's the one, that's the one we were working on. That's basically the one that was posted last meeting that we never touched because we just ended up doing public feedback.
Okay.
But I have the Word version, so let me just pull that up and I can live edit it. That's the plan. Where is it? Space. Yeah, I think it's the same one.
Looking at this wetlands section.
Yep.
Is reminding me that I talked with Tina Heath, who's the regional wetlands person in our neighborhood, works for the state of Vermont, and she is happy to do a walkthrough of the like Bass Trail wet spot in the next. I forget, I think she said she was booked out a couple weeks, but you know, things are slowing down this time of the year for her. So, and Sam and I had talked that maybe if enough committee members wanted to join for a walk, we should do like a publicly warned meeting. And so I told her I would talk to the committee and see if that's how we wanted to run it with, you know, a quorum. Or if it would just be like a couple of us. So do you think a large group of us would want to join Tina for a walk through that basket?
Yeah.
Right, but the best part is if she can commit and do it. And we can't get a large committee, we should still do it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
Right.
I think it'd be educational and
Yeah.
it would be, I think. I forget how she was probably thinking about it a little bit differently than I was. She was thinking about it more with a regulator hat on, kind of
Right.
like, yeah, I'd be happy to walk through and you have to have me look at this stuff. So,
Right.
She'd probably have some great ideas,
I think so.
give us a lot of good advice.
Yeah, I think so. I asked her about the wildlife sort of additional buffer beyond the water
yeah.
quality stuff, and she was like, yeah, I'd be really interested to know what species are in there using that space. And I could see her mind kind of go off on that. And so I don't know if that's something with a site visit she can figure out quickly but I think for like you to be able to talk that through with her would be really awesome.
That'd be great.
So do you, should we? Yeah, should we try and? You want me to just set up a date with her and then we'll see how many people?
Yeah.
If it's
based on the interest on the committee, we'll publicly warn it or not. I mean, I guess we could publicly warn it either way, but we publicly warned the meeting we had with VLT and Rachel Roman, and I think we did have a quorum technically. When we did the Brendan Benedict walk, I don't believe that was publicly warned, and we only had 2 members from the committee. So
So what's the timing to be publicly warned? Is it 2 weeks?
2 day, I think it's 2 days.
Oh, 2 days. Okay, so we can let Tina's schedule dictate when
Sure.
she's available, and then if enough people want to join.
Now, if we're not making decisions and it's 4 of us walking in the woods, is that
4 is fine, 5 is not.
okay?
Because 4 is still sub quorum. I would be fine with 4 of us meeting and we're not talking committee business, but because the nature of discussion is going to be about ACF, I'd be a little bit
Fine.
worried about having a meeting with a quorum because that doesn't look great. So I would say
So if it wasn't publicly warned, or just,
if it wasn't warned, if it was warned, then I think it would be fine because but we would need somebody, I guess, to like take minutes or something, which is a little annoying.
Don't have an agenda, but that can be a one-line.
Yeah, basically just meet. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, just coordinate with Tina. Depending on interest, we'll decide what to do. But if it looks like we got enough interest for, if 5 or more of us are gonna show up, then it needs to be warned.
Okay.
And that's fine. We could choose to warn it either way, even if it's like 4 people.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know if that's fully necessary.
Is there anything else? I had told her the Bass Trail where it's wet would be a logical spot to look at. Is there anything else that's worth looking at in terms of wetlands that like pops into?
I mean, unless she wants to hike up to the vernal pools or something. I mean, you could ask her how much time she has and how much interest she has. We could, go to the vernal pools or like check out some of like the streams. I don't know how it's gonna.
Stream crossing just before you get to VYCC.
That could be worth, that's not her department, but
Oh, it's like just
Oh,
wetlands, not streams.
yeah, stream is a different person.
Dory Barton said, on maybe their second assessment that they did, that it looked pretty wet way up, like right at the bottom or the top of, what's it called, Hemlock Valley? Right up at the ravine, kind of where those 3 trails were all gonna intersect, I believe.
Okay.
Right.
You
And
mean
then
like-
go to the
Way up
Sunshine
by-
Connector,
Way up by Simpson.
so it's way up.
That's like, I mean, there could never be a trail up there.
It's.
I don't think so.
Well,
I would propose that.
Airwood said it might qualify as wet.
But that can be,
Oh, yeah, and it's a heck of a ways from. where
if and when a trail is proposed up there, I
Yeah.
think that's the time to look at it. I feel like the Bass Trail is kind of like, in
What-
theory, that's
Well,
a,
the other one would be the vast trail to the west.
Yeah.
When you leave the power line road, so you've left the landing. And it goes downhill,
Mhm.
the utility road goes downhill a little bit, and then the vast trail's on the left. That can be very wet.
really, okay.
Yeah, it's brush hoggable.
Yep.
But it's wet.
So maybe that's worth looking at too.
Yeah, and it's right there.
to see
And that
what-
came up earlier, right? Way back when.
And that's separate from the power line road,
Yep, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, the power line road has kind of replaced it,
right,
but
right,
it
That's
still gets
okay.
used. Yeah.
okay, so
Less
maybe,
so right now, because there's a bunch of down trees on it. I
Oh,
think.
okay.
Oh.
If you go right up, you're saying that first right after the log
Oh,
landing?
those trees have been cut, by the way, right?
Oh, great.
No, it would, okay, opposite that, to the left.
Okay, gotcha. Oh, yeah, that can get, a little soggy.
Right.
so would the potential question be, like, do we just close that because it's wet? And
Well, there's a trail, that urbanic trail tees in on it.
so that's what actually.
So the
closed?
northern end
So
of
they-
that is at,
Okay,
That's below the vast.
It's below vast,
That's the-
yeah.
Like, that's an area where what can we do to dry it up?
Yeah, we could easily
Do
have
that.
Tina take a look and
Right.
see,
Yeah,
I mean, I
that's
don't
an
know if it
easy one.
qualifies as wetlands, but we could get her
Right.
opinion, and it's only 2 steps off the trail that we'd be walking up to get to,
and
Cool.
to save time, we could meet at the log landing. If that's the wish of The group.
Yeah, whatever we want to do. I mean, I think most of us are going to be at the lot walking up, so we could just meet at the lot
Right.
and talk as we go.
It's good. Okay.
Cool. Yeah, I guess the main thing is we should look at that wetland area, but if she's got more time and we want to check out some other stuff, I mean, I'd be happy to walk wherever she wants to look at in the forest. I mean,
Yeah.
more expert opinions are always welcome, just in terms of, oh, hey, here's something you should know about this, that, or the other thing, and
Yep.
how we might want to move forward. Okay, so back to the management plan. So we were on wetlands, and we passed over wetlands that last meeting, not 2 weeks ago, but I guess it was about a month ago. Decided that we were not going to be able to come up with language for it on the spot. So we moved that to working group, which Brad, Jim and I talked about. And so this is how this text got generated.
Didn't we though? Remember Julian brought up the point that these are, right now, the way they're written, they're blanket. And they set up some, relatively strict parameters for the whole place.
Yep.
So in that other thing in the packet, trail parameter suggestions. Or the file is called suggests for B6 trail parameters. And I don't think our working group ever got to it that day.
No, we spent a lot of time on wetlands and we didn't do much else.
But- So I split it. I mean, the topics are the same. It basically says northern zone, southern zone, northern zone.
This is the suggests. Should I look at that one?
There's a note at the top that says markup with suggestions.
This screen's very hard to see on this screen.
Well, it says markup with suggestions from
Is it
Brad.
better? It's a little easier to read.
To respond to Julian's point that the current text applies one set of parameters to both northern and southern zones, despite the differences between them. The 9-1 working group focused only on the wetlands section of this. But we'll see text in the B6 document, so.
Yeah, because we did talk about that at that meeting too, and we talked about splitting it up into, to make it more defined,
Yeah.
northern and southern. And so this was your stab at it.
Yeah,
This is not the subcommittee, but this was your
right,
work to split that
Right.
out.
so that would do it, because I mean, great point.
Yeah.
So in the north, we, more or less respect, maybe not everywhere, but I can't recall offhand, but 300-foot buffer north. And then down in the bottom, we would say just avoid encroachment of the identified connectors.
So I guess I'm
Or
feeling,
not on wetlands. but go
I'm
ahead.
feeling like this has just a lot of, I don't know. It feels like a step backwards in some ways. Like
Feels like a what? I'm
a
sorry.
step backwards just because there's so much to go through.
Well, I mean, otherwise,
The idea of having one set of parameters here, and for the slope guys, is that washouts and erosion are bad news everywhere. Like, that's just you're talking out loud here, and we had a document that we were checking things off. So,
right, but if it's in the north, you've got 300-foot you protect them at 300. In the south, you basically go by the state's wetland of 50 feet, which is centered, to protect the wetland itself, not the wetland is natural community, with visiting animals and so on.
I guess this is a little tricky because I feel like the main person who wanted to split it out was Julian.
Yeah.
And he's not here, so.
But I see the logic, otherwise, we don't want to do. If we apply the rules from the north to the south, then it's gonna be really hard to put trails anywhere down there.
Yes and no. I mean, I guess looking at the landscape and looking at it doesn't, we know it doesn't affect any like grandfathered trails. And also, I don't know, looking at the map, I'm just trying to visualize the map in the natural communities, like there's not a ton of new places that we would necessarily want to put in new trails, and the places that we might, like a loop for, like accessible, more like a more accessible loop for, folks who are, disabled or have trouble hiking, like would be within a section that is I think it's well clear of all of those natural communities. I could be wrong, but
Yeah, I
don't-
just like default to the stricter guidelines and, that's, you have deviation. A deviation mechanism that could take into consideration whether it's north or south.
yeah, I think that yeah, that would be one way to do it, like without completely overhauling the whole section, is just in the deviation section, like change the percentage. We haven't gotten to it yet, so maybe people don't like that, but I basically created like a percentage, like how far into the zone you could go, and that could be a bigger percentage allowed in the southern section. That might be the easiest way to do it without adjusting as much text.
Yeah,
Right?
Could you, in either the deviation section or in the plan, have a chart that would replace the narrative for much of this? So you'd look at riparian areas, and it would be, in the north, it would be X number of feet, and in the south, it would be
Yeah, we could.
fewer feet.
then it'd just be adding a column and a chart,
Right.
not reading a ton of text. That's
Yep.
true.
Yeah, I think that would work. I think it would be a good, like, quick reference too. I think we wouldn't necessarily want to publish that table without also adjusting this text and adopting it, because otherwise I feel like you have two sections that are kind of in conflict with one another. Unless we said, here are the parameters, they apply to the whole forest except for anything outlined in the table, like that the table would supersede any text or something. We could try to do it that way, or maybe it's just a matter of,
I think I like the idea that, the parameters are reasonable and they apply north and south equally. It's really the uses and the volume of traffic that are gonna be different, and potentially maybe with the variance or the exemption thing. But I do feel like, a vernal pool is a vernal pool and it deserves a proper setback. Same with a, wetland or a stream crossing or anything, that all these ideas are, as applicable in the south as they are in the north. So we should just try and think about the parameters as being, reasonable and accomplishing what they're meant to do regardless of where in the forest. That makes sense.
I agree with you. I just want to be sensitive to recreational users and, listen to like Julian's concerns, in that part of the way it was divided this way was to ease up a little bit in the southern section to allow more protection in the northern section. So to sort of like make that distinction, but then to apply the same parameters to the whole forest seems like a little bit misguided, but I don't
Like you
know.
said,
I'm all
Joe,
for protecting all the things that need to be
Yeah,
protected in the forest. So personally, I think it's good, but
Yeah.
like I also, I thought the point was for us to
think-
kind of,
I think
be
also
flexible.
if at a future time, there was a potential trail in the southern section that violated some of this stuff, I kind of think that would be the time to discuss it and say, well, let's tweak how we're thinking about, the southern section. But I think for now, because those trails are existing and it doesn't seem like there's a need for a lot more trails there. There's some pretty great corridors already established. I would say let's just go with stricter guidelines everywhere and not try and rework all this. Cause it's a really good document and
I'm okay with it.
Splitting north and south, just we're kind of starting back at the beginning of a lot of this.
I'm okay with just putting it in trail deviations and like,
Yeah,
that's
we can
one
have
easy
that.
way, as an easy way to just
Yep.
give more allowance in that section, and then we don't have to adjust what we already have, we can keep moving forward. The only thing I'll point out is if we're going to change how we think about trail development in the southern section, if it's not, if a trail that's going in it does not meet the criteria of the management plan, then that means you have to update the management plan and then go get the select board and VLT to approve that before you can discuss the trail with those new guidelines. So
Yeah.
that's the downside, is that like you're turning something that it's not just a discussion on this committee on like, oh, well, maybe we'll just like, fudge it a little bit for this trail and it'll be fine. It'll be like, no, this is in violation of the management plan. And so we're gonna have to change the management plan to put the trail in. So I think what we want to do is come up with a plan that, I mean, it's not gonna be set in stone, but like, it's much better to write things well one time, and to have it not constantly get updated. If people start thinking like, oh, well, if we don't like what's in the plan, we'll just change it, then we're kind of setting a precedent that like, the plan's not that good if it has to keep being amended for us to get anything done. I think we should.
But we also we can't look at it through every possible lens right now.
Yeah.
Like Virginia Clark is talking about that, how you kind of need to put the plan out there and then have people say, well, what about this? What if I want to do this? Or, you know what I mean? That's kind of the ultimate decider on whether it was written correctly or not. It's
Mhm.
hard to see all those little angles ahead of time. So
I think,
What- yeah.
I think, Jimmy has a good point. It gives us, it just like moves it forwards. And it gives the forest some protection. There's so much work to be done on the existing trails that need a lot of work to be really usable.
Yep.
And then if we do get to the point where a lot of new trails, whatever, are gonna go in below the vast, then we can use the deviation or cross that bridge.
And even if ideally we would use the stricter standards too, that's the other thing. I think those standards make sense regardless of, a natural community is a natural community.
Yeah.
Well, like these parameters are good and reasonable, and I think we should try to adhere to them regardless of north or south.
Cool. What are people thinking? I'm fine with just leaving with as we have it, and then to just, if anything, put something in the trail deviation section. Does everyone feel good with that?
Yeah.
Definitely worth a try.
We have this thing that that Brad wrote up for reference. If we get like a bunch of pushback on this section, in the public comment phase, then we have a template for how we could quickly update it. So maybe we just keep that on record.
And so in terms of the wetlands specifically, this language does, what are we thinking with the wetlands? Should we just talk to Tina about it and see what she recommends?
Yeah.
I mean, the state wetland guidelines are gonna be less protective than what we have outlined here in the north.
Right, but
So.
the way Brad phrased it, and you can jump in here, but some of the natural communities are wetlands, and those have a call out of a 300-foot buffer.
Yeah,
So we sort of felt like, well, yeah, they're wetlands and the state requires a 50-foot buffer, but there are also these natural communities that we have recognized, they're on the map, so they will get a bigger
that makes
buffer.
sense.
Example being like you pointed out on a map that there's like an alder swamp in the northern section of the forest, and it's very small, but the main things people know about in ACF are like the two vernal pools and the wetlands right by the Bass Trail. So that's kind of what I've been thinking of as wetlands in this context, but then it's just like, oh yeah, well, there are a couple other little things in here too,
Nice.
like the alder swamp. It's not very likely that anything's going to go near there anyway, just based on the terrain and how we're trying to, develop the forest. But there are still other things that need to be considered. It's not just those three things.
So just take out in the northern zone.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what triggered Julian, I think.
Well, and so part of it was I guess that we were talking about it was it it might have been what you brought up in our working group, which was like, we were looking at the map and it's like, well, what if some people like come in and like identify more, like that's how I had the C map on blank, right? Was that
Yeah.
there was concern that if all of a sudden we discover a bunch more wetlands in ACF, then does that like,
So.
what does that mean? You know, and
Yeah, so like hypothetically, if we walk around with Tina and we say, okay, we want to put a boardwalk that's just off the Vast Trail because the Vast Trail is also a farm road, so we want to put it over here, and she says, okay, that's wetland over there.
yeah,
We would then have to hire someone to survey the wetland and figure out its extent,
Yeah.
buffers, everything, and then have a plan for how we would navigate it, basically.
like it's the main point
Um,
here was like, we have a map of the wetlands we know about now. And so basically, I don't know if we have to call it out or not, because it's like, well, you're only going to avoid the things that you're aware of. But I guess the point would be if you want to put the trail in and then you suddenly discover a wetland right in the path.
And class 3 wetlands are not mapped currently on the
Mhm.
town forest. Those are the seeps, the really small.
Yeah.
Features, wetland features. And those, I don't know how Tina would think about it, but there's potential that she would say, yeah, those all matter, need to be avoided,
Yeah.
need whatever. So, and that's where when you start to have an environmental ecologist, mark that stuff, they're kind of everywhere on these Vermont hillsides.
Yeah,
So that's why the way you capitalized wetland natural communities, I think is important because they're the known mapped large features that we see now.
Yeah, so the question is, if you go to put a trail in and there's an unmapped wetland that we run into
So-
in the process of trail
Class 3
development.
wetland, according to Tina, you can put a trail through it, near it, whatever. She would prefer if you boardwalked through the wet part.
Yeah.
It's good trail practice anyway. There's no constraint on their end, but
But they're
It
also
was
supposed to
mapped.
focus on water quality, I think, and not wildlife. So like if it's a seep is important in the spring because that's the first place that a lot of animals are going to for food in the spring, because that's the first plants that are going to grow are in the seep area. So if you put a trail right through a seep, then you're basically, you might be scaring a bunch of animals off from going to a place where they would normally go to seek food in the spring.
yeah,
So
that's a question for Tina.
yeah, so I guess the main thing I'm trying to get at here is, on one hand, you have specifically calling out specific wetland communities on a map and saying, well, these are the only ones we care about. You can put trails anywhere else. But then on the other, which is sort of like the compromise stance, which is like to not freak out people who want trails, because it's like, well, what if we run into a wetland like while we're trying to do, put a trail in. The other side, which I think is probably the better way to do it, is to not just say see map, because like if we do run into a wetland while we're in the middle of trying to build a trail, we should probably do what we can to try to avoid it, right? So
For sure,
Yeah.
yeah, but if you apply the 300-foot buffer to class 3 wetlands,
Mhm.
then it's kind of Julian's fear, which is the entire forest.
gotcha. So do we want to then instead, if that's the big problem, and if we're just talking about seep, we're like class 3 wetlands, whatever that entails, which would be seep and maybe a few other things, it's like,
There's no good definition for it.
Okay.
Which is part of the problem.
well,
We've only got, like, on the Biofinder map, I think, 2 little seeps somewhere.
okay,
I mean, it's not like a big deal,
yeah.
I don't think.
I guess the question is like, do you want to buffer a seep by 300 feet, right? Like we could just throw something in the wetland section saying like, hey, yeah, we understand we have seeps in here, we're going to buffer them by 100 feet, or something, rather than, even though the state says you can go right through them as long as you use a boardwalk, or it'd be better to avoid them. If that makes it easier to say like, okay, well, we know seeps exist, they count as wetlands, we're not going to buffer them by 300 feet because they don't really need, just like intermittent streams, right? Like intermittent and perennial streams, we're giving a buffer requirement of 50 to 100 feet. So maybe seep, maybe we can just fix all this by just putting a bullet in here that says seep buffer 100 foot, and then that's not putting a 300 buffer on every single seep, which if that's the main
That makes
concern,
sense.
I think it's a better way to do it than to basically say, well, we're publishing this map that has all the wetlands we know about. And as long as you're not close to these, it's fine. But if we find another one, we're going to have to like go through some process to update the map and like republish it, which means in the meantime, you could basically put a trail right through
Well,
it.
yeah, I think what you see on the ground will always trump a map.
But not based on the management plan currently, right? It's like we would try, I mean, we would make our best effort to try to be responsible. But we're basically saying we're giving an exception to any wetland that's not on the map.
But
And to me, that seems a little bit,
Maybe I'm misunderstanding you, but if I'm, proposing that, I'm a person in town that's proposing this
Yeah.
trail that goes through a wetland, but somehow our management plan didn't quite capture language in a way that the committee's hands are not tied at that point. The
it's
committee
true, we
still
could
use the
still like
judgment
not
call.
recommended, but we wouldn't necessarily have we don't know like what the future, what the future committee looks like. And we don't know, I mean, that's just like, I don't know, that's like a town or like the state or federal government basically saying like, well, we're not really gonna like put a law here. And like, we think people are hopefully just gonna abide by,
You need
common
policy to
sense.
create an opinion.
What's that?
You need policy to fall back on to.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be
issue your
like,
opinion.
yeah, it'd be like Tyler Masha, like not having a definition of a trail in the zoning regs, which is like caused a bunch of drama. It's like if somebody had just put a definition of a trail in the zoning regs, it would have been way simpler, right? It's like if somebody had put something about steep or wetlands, like in the management plan, it would be very clear how to deal with them versus somebody being like, well, I'm not, I probably shouldn't do this, but I can based on the rules.
If somehow a class 2 wetland existed that somehow wasn't on the map
Mhm.
and a trail was proposed to go through it, I think the committee would do the right thing and not allow a trail to go through a class 2 wetland.
I know, but the whole point of the management plan is to set out all the rules, right? It's like, you could say like, well, there's no need for a management plan at all because the committee's smart enough to figure out like what we should and shouldn't be doing, like this is just like a microcosm of the whole plan as a whole.
Yeah,
Like the
but
whole point of the plan is to put all the
But
rules in
Sam, it
place.
cuts both ways, right? Where you could have folks weaponizing the management plan and saying, oh, it's 300 feet to a class 3 wetland.
Sure, which
a
is why I'm
class 3 wetland.
suggesting we just put a bullet in that says like for, seeps or I guess I have to look up what a class 3 wetland is. You were saying it's kind of nebulous, but
Neither class 1 or class 2. So it's whatever the person you hire marks as a class 3.
uh-huh.
And they have their own criteria, but it's not published anywhere. It's not. So this stuff is weaponized to block development as a fact. These environmental regulations happens. So yeah, a balance has to be struck, yes, but we also have to rely on the intent of the committee and the sort of almost the honor of the committee to try and do the right thing. I think that's super important, and we don't necessarily have to highlighting items or places on a map, an alder swamp, a vernal pool, etc. That helps elucidate the intent of the committee, right? Having a line that says this map is fluid and can change, and there could be additional things added to this map, I think would suffice to not tie the hands of the committee in the face of a potential trail that
Mhm.
proposed in a place where it shouldn't be. I don't know, does that make any sense?
Yeah, I guess I understand what you're saying. I just disagree. I guess I just disagree and feel like we should just say, for class 3 wetlands, we're using a smaller buffer, rather than using the map, like the current known wetlands map in the forest.
Okay, maybe, how about we just talk it through with Tina?
Yeah, we could do
Maybe
that.
She'll have a good sense of that.
Sure.
Talk it through with Tina.
I have a map that shows seeps.
I don't even see seep. I'm looking at the jurisdictional wetlands page on the Vermont site, and it doesn't say anything about seep. And yes, you're right that it says like it's the class 3 wetlands is a bit nebulous, but if you read class 1 and class 2, then you know what class 3 is. Like if it qualifies as a wetland and it's not 1 or 2.
Right.
So it's not like it's just some arbitrary thing, because there are requirements for what a class 2 wetland or what a class 1 wetland are. So
So
it's a little bit harder to summarize, but But it is still a defined thing. It's not like. It's, you've got your checklist for class 2 wetlands, and if it's not a class 2 wetland, then, and it's not a class 1, then it's a 3. Which based on. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'd have to read through this more carefully, but
It's class 2, is 25, is more than 2,500 square feet.
yeah, so I don't think
So,
anything,
yeah,
pretty much everything in ACF, I think is gonna be class 3.
That's what, 50 by 50?
Well, yeah, I guess,
Class 2 has other criteria, like
Oh,
if it
yeah.
interacts with groundwater.
But the size.
there's- Yeah, it's not just
saying it's
size.
pretty
There's,
narrow.
there's more than size.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
But for us to not have discovered them yet, I'm just saying, if it's got 2,500 feet or over, we probably somebody would have
But
examined.
Yeah, it's
a class
and
2 can be
it's,
less than 2,500 square feet.
Would be less than.
A class 2 can be less than 2,500 square feet, yes.
well, maybe that's just one of the points that could make, like, if it's over 2,500, then it
For
automatically.
sure, class 2, yeah.
Yeah.
But you could have a class 2 that's smaller.
Oh, maybe.
So like if you had one that is smaller than 2,500 feet, but it's a vernal pool that provides amphibian breeding habitat, then that would make it a class 2.
Mhm.
Or if it's a headwater wetland.
Yeah, I think let's just talk the language through with Tina. We can have this printed out and see if she feels like
Mhm.
it would be too constrained, not enough, a nice balance.
Yeah, I guess, I think it'd be worth, if we're not deciding on it right now, then I would say we should include both options until we basically decide on something, like in the wetlands.
So how about we strike the northern zone and how about we
I got rid of that.
strike the map, C map, right? You don't like that? You feel like that's. Or say C map and have a line about the map may change. The map,
Yeah.
the map is illustrative only, or it's,
Yeah, I would just say like, we keep what we have, get rid of the C map, and then just put another bullet point that says, for class 3 wetlands, use a smaller buffer, and we could just decide on what the buffer is, like 100 feet or something. And that basically, almost everything in the forest is gonna be a class 3 wetland, so we basically like covered all our bases.
yeah. I'm just thinking like then the vast trail is probably gonna be,
Well, the vast trail is grandfathered, and we're
not
not,
if we're boardwalking around the wet part in a way that preserves the pathway for farm equipment.
yeah,
Then we're talking about, potentially encroaching on class 3 wetland. So which is why I think Tina should look at that spot because it's a very tricky thing.
mhm.
Yeah, Bruce could go in there for agricultural purposes and, make a road like the power company did, but
Yeah.
then what does that mean for recreation? Are we okay to just use it? And
That wet area on the vast trail is, as I've observed, it's really changed this year. It's helped in the spring. I'm sure it's not now, but in the spring it was a lot wetter than I'd ever seen it before. So,
Yeah.
and that's hardly surprising what we know about climate changes. So that's going to be potentially a continuous process. So in other words, the wetland situation is evolving. It's not constant.
Mhm.
Is it possible to have a boardwalk that the tractor can drive over?
I don't
I don't know.
think so.
Are
I think,
tractors like,
I think the
You guys
plan,
have
They pull,
tractors.
they pull equipment that would tear it up.
oh, okay, that's not
the
gonna,
plan would be just leave the vast trail as is, and then basically probably north of that, put a boardwalk, so that we'd route all the foot traffic and bike traffic over the boardwalk. And then it would leave it clear for Bruce or whoever else to use the existing road.
Or upgrade the road.
Yeah, that would also work.
Culvert,
But that,
big deal.
we couldn't do that. Right?
We could for forestry and agricultural purposes. And then it would be used for recreation. Which is often the case.
Yes.
yeah. Rather than building a whole separate
I think
structure.
that would be reasonable to.
Yes,
You do
there would be reasonable because
for
for
forestry.
forestry and for
Yeah.
agriculture, and then
Because every
The
time you
net
drive
benefit
through there.
is
make a mess.
recreation. And, you know, we can be, we're transparent. There's 3 user groups and
Yep, that's true.
All legit,
what's that?
and they're all legit.
And they're all legit.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the best.
Yeah.
Approach then, yeah. And then the class 3 wording could be strict and
And that would be to, for, if it, I would walk it with, for example, a logger, Mark Multrip or someone that has an excavator and go, what would you do here?
right.
With, he doesn't even really want, but with someone with Tina, and then they'd have a conversation.
Yeah,
What's the best approach here?
So are we suggesting we want to invite another person to come with Tina, or we're just saying in the future, if we're having a discussion, we invite Tina back plus somebody to
I don't
discuss?
think we need to add another person, but we.
Okay.
In the future.
So I basically added this, you can barely see it's highlighted, but these 2 sub points. So I just moved the C map thing. And then just put set a class 3 wetland buffer. And then we'll come back to this after we've talked to Tina.
the C map. You were worried that that would be too, that would somehow limit future flexibility to,
It's less about flexibility. It's just more about just, I mean, in some ways it makes it more flexible, which I guess depending what your goal is, but it's basically set like saying like, you're basically just listing out things like that should be avoided rather than, it's like my same reasoning why, like, I don't like drawing trails on a map. I want to see like parameters and buffers and like, because that's scientific, you know, versus saying like, oh, we're just going to designate a bunch of places that we're going to try to avoid. But then there could be other places that we should avoid, but they're not on the list, so they don't matter. You know, that's basically my concern with the map, is that if the map isn't catching everything, like if there are things in the forest we don't know about, we should be doing our best to respect those areas and try to steer clear of them.
so you
And by
think
saying you need to refer to the map, that means, well, it wasn't on the map, so I guess it doesn't matter, you know? And I know that the committee probably will do the right thing, but again, I feel like the management plan is designed to help the town, both now and in the future, manage that resource responsibly and to, you know, so if we know of something that should be considered, you know, moving forward, then we want to put it in there.
So we should eliminate that bullet then.
Okay, so you're comfortable with that? I would
Yeah,
leave
yeah,
it on there because it sounded
yeah.
like you wanted it still.
Well, no,
Well, each of these features, each of these natural community areas there will be a map, right? And it'll have that disclaimer on it that things could change.
Yeah.
But somewhere in the plan, we do want to show these, what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, or either in the plan or
You don't need to have C map on each one of those. We could come up with some clever way to.
so that'll be we can talk that through with Tina, you
Okay.
know, talk about that specific spot and see what she thinks and. Yeah,
Okay.
free buffer and ag forestry,
So
lack of jurisdiction and.
so at least this section, does it like the last bullet point here, do we have issues with that? Or do we want to leave this whole thing in red till we talk with Tina?
I would say leave the whole
Okay,
thing
cool.
red, but I feel like that's pretty darn close.
All right,
That's just good general guidance, I think. I mean, the state rules, right? There's nothing new there.
Yep.
okay, so I'm just gonna put a note here, just so we know why it's red and that we're gonna come back to it.
I'm struggling with the minutes on this topic, so
I wouldn't, I wouldn't worry too much about.
I think I know what to say, but it's certainly one that I'd like to bounce off. So
You could just say discussion ensued.
About wetland.
extensive discussion
Extensive discussion.
on the topic of wetlands.
We're gonna wait for Tina to leave.
Sorry to belabor that point. That class 3 thing, I'm definitely, I feel like that would be great to have,
Cool, yeah, I mean.
The other thing about the minutes is I think we've been looking at 3 different documents relating to the uh, trail development parameters and other parts, other things relating to trail variances and so I think that's fair. We've got 3 documents. Well, we've got the appendix too, so.
Yeah.
But what we're listing in the agenda is really 2 documents that we've been discussing. It's the B6 document and then the suggestions for B6 trail parameters, the second.
So the suggestions, we basically decided to just keep on the side for now. We may use those in the future, but we decided that we wanted to just stick with what we had because it was it would require us to rewrite a bunch of stuff in here that we don't necessarily want to
We're
rewrite.
deferring for a consultation with Tina Heath.
That for Tina, we're waiting on Tina for the wetlands, and we're not going to do anything with the other suggestions documents at this time.
Sure, okay, yeah. Sure.
And then we're just live editing the other B6.
And can I summarize the discussion raised by Julian about distinguishing between north and south, because the second of the documents in the packet has separated north and south.
It does, and we talked about maybe fixing that in the trail deviation section. So we could maybe simply deal with that by in the trail deviation the trail deviation process, which we'll get to soon, hopefully. Then just we can note the southern section there and say, well, the allowance for trail deviation in the southern zone is higher. So it allows us to basically do it in one place versus rewriting the entire parameters.
The text that's in the second of those 2 documents in the packet, we're not accepting that distinguishing between the 2 at this point.
Not at this time.
Yeah.
We're gonna keep the stricter guidelines north and south.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, and then handle the issues that arise, for instance, by Julian's point, handle those in the trail deviation section.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so we're past wetlands. We talked about, I think, most of the stuff already. We skipped over wetlands, came back to it a second time, but I think we're pretty much good with all this until we got to Hemlock. So are we cool skipping down
To Hemlock?
back
Yeah.
to Hemlock?
Mhm.
Yes.
Great, because yeah. So, yeah, we've got our Hemlock section. And we have a few comments. So first point, focus on protection of hemlock stands, which serve as critical wintering habitat for deer, turkey, and other species. Dan has a comment and provide a naturally cooler microclimate in summer months, offering shade and maintaining lower ground temperatures that benefit both wildlife and nearby water sources. How do we feel about that? I guess
I mean,
my understanding was that the hemlock sections, they weren't specifically called out as, rare communities, but we wanted to protect them because of their function in the forest, and that we were going to try to manage them seasonally because of the importance they serve in the winter. If we choose to put in the summer month stuff, then we might want to just, I would say we should only do that if we're planning on not allowing development in hemlock at all, right? Because I guess I'm not certain why we would call out the importance of it in the summer, but say like, well, we're still gonna put traffic through there. Hemlock, I thought, was something that we added sort of like on the top of what we even knew about the forest, right? Like hemlock wasn't even a thing in the first version of the management plan. It's not in the
It's not one of the LP's protected.
Exactly. But we identified it as something that we thought that we should protect.
Right.
So how do we feel about that? And do we feel like it should be managed seasonally, or do we feel like it should be managed year round and we should keep all trails out of it?
You even hear it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I mean, I thought that our original strategy made sense, that it was a temporal thing and.
I thought so too. I guess, Dan, do you have thoughts on this since this is your comment?
I just added that comment because I think hemlock stands are really amazing and they're a unique feature on the landscape that are becoming more and more important in summer too.
Mhm.
But it doesn't mean that the seasonal closure isn't a good way to manage them. It was more like just getting in the value of them.
Okay.
in the comment. I wasn't saying that you can't go in there,
I wonder if that's like
but maybe that's an appendix thing.
or a consideration for the ecology or the forestry thing that, maybe.
That makes more sense to me. I guess
Yeah.
to me, we're talking about trail development parameters here. So I feel like we're providing a little context and then we're providing guidance on like how we build trails. And in this case, like this, would
Yeah.
have a temporal effect on trail building or trail opening
Yeah,
and
that's true.
closing.
I mean, I think the forest management plan does not promote cutting down hemlock stands,
It protects them.
does it? I think it,
Oh, I don't know. I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
I
I'd
don't
have to
remember.
look.
I would think.
I guess I would say we should cross-check the ecology section, and I think this is a really good thing to put in the ecology. But I don't know if it necessarily belongs in the trail section. I guess that's what I'm trying to say, is that to say I don't know, just to call out like importance in the summer months and then say, well, we're gonna put trails in there anyway. Either we need to decide that it's important enough to protect year round, or I feel like it should be moved out of this section. Just because otherwise it's a little confusing to call out its importance, but then to sort of ignore that, to ignore what we just called out. Yeah. I think my understanding is the biggest, value of those hemlock stands is in the winter, because of the protection from the snow and, both, like the temperatures and, there's less snow in there, so it helps with
Wonder
the
if much
survival
the
of trees.
dryness helps too, but it's
When
such a dry space for an animal in the winter when it's like just cold and wet.
Mhm.
It's a fairly dry space.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, but I do know, having walked through hemlock stands in the forest in the winter, that it is very different.
Very
You
different.
step into the hemlock stand, it's much easier to walk around.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
it blocks the wind too, which is.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, go ahead?
Well, I have a question about hemlock. It seems that discussions, I'm learning about hemlocks and a lot of other things, and what I've been learning from the discussion is that hemlock is an important overwintering area for deer.
Yes.
One specific species is mentioned, but I think what I was just hearing from you, Sam, was that actually this applies to a lot of species.
I believe so. Turkey, and I know there's a few others.
Yeah, I mean, what I find challenging is understanding the two different aspects of this, that protecting deer in the winter is important and hemlock stands can do that. On the other hand, in the Andrews Forest and maybe elsewhere, there's an overpopulation of deer. So why are we protecting a species that is
Classic.
a problem?
The classic answer is starvation isn't a wildlife management tool. You know what I mean? Like killing them by starvation.
Yeah.
That's what, because that argument does come up.
I asked the state of Vermont folks that question, and they said that deer wintering is sort of a vestige of the like hunting priorities in the state of Vermont, and that's why it's so predominant, this deer wintering concept, and that it's it is a little bit old thinking,
Yeah.
is the way they put it.
But also to Brad's point, it's like you don't want to just starve all the deer out. I mean, yeah, if we want less deer in the forest, that's fine. But if we're, going in, every few days to try to drive them out of the hemlock sections to like tire them out and like
But if you
starve them by the end of the winter season, that's a pretty brutal way.
But if you
to
looked
deal
at
with it.
deer like you
Deer problem.
do, say, ticks, we wouldn't be saying, how can we, preserve the tick habitat? Let's, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it depends how you look at deer. Are they something that we want to, have a large, healthy, huntable population of? Or are they something that is damaging to the forest and a nuisance to us? And so,
Yeah.
yeah,
I guess what I was trying to point out is that they do have, I think, really enormous ecological value
Yeah.
in the summer, especially with warming of the climate. And they have that dense canopy, the lower air temperature. They protect water quality in streams, a shaded refuge for wildlife, and the moisture retention.
And the stream temperature too.
Stream temperatures. So I think I'm just trying to say we should have like, people should be aware of that. So
Yeah.
if a trail is going in, like you keep the trail narrow, you keep it shaded. I just want there to be some recognition of the value of the hemlock stands as,
So what I'm learning is that hemlocks are valuable, not just for protecting, for providing winter protection for deer, but for many other reasons. Implication, many other species benefit from hemlock.
So
I think John Card talks about 40 species using birds, you know.
are we okay? Or Dan, are you okay moving your sentence into the ecological section? Okay,
If it's not, it may be there, I'm looking right now, see if we covered it.
Okay, thanks, Brad.
fine moving it. I just think
It's-
it
it's
should be
noteworthy.
somewhere.
yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
Worthy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I agree. Cool. Well, you look that up, Brad. I'll just put move to eco section.
And for Ian's comment, the during winter months being ill-defined, didn't we have dates we were,
I saw a text modifying that. No, I can't, I've been looking for it, I can't find it. But
yeah, should we,
it was specifying hunting season as being start and end of.
yeah, and I think, didn't you have thought you preferred it to be more general, maybe because then the sort of ordinance, the rules could have those dates? Was that how you were thinking about it?
I'm struggling to recall that discussion.
It's only a couple months ago.
Yeah, a lot has happened in a few months. I feel like it's easier to manage if we just define months than if we're talking about snow on the ground. I mean, I guess, I don't know, it maybe warrants a bigger discussion about, let's say bike use in the forest, or, certain types of uses in the forest during winter months, right? Like, I don't know, if we've got a really, snowless, warm winter, then I guess like it's probably fine for people to, like, if we have no mud, if there's no mud, like, is it fine for bikers to still bike around? Like, you probably know better than I do. Like, what would like trail usage look like in the rest of the town if we had a really warm, dry winter? Do you think people would be out on bikes? Would it be weird to like say like, oh, well, we're closing these trails, even though it's unseasonably warm and dry? If it's not having an effect on wildlife, then maybe it makes more sense to just leave the trail open because it's not actually going to cause any harm. So I'm okay with that as long as like we feel like that's the responsible thing to do. It might be easier to manage if we just said, well, from December until, what's that?
December 1st.
Sure. Yeah, like December 1st until, March 31st, that like, these trails are closed.
Yeah, I think it's important, even if the conditions are favorable to the trails being used, that we publish an open and close date.
I like that better.
It can change.
But I guess my question is, do we put that in the management plan here, or do we want to just say, during winter months and then define it more specifically somewhere
In the rule book,
in the rule book? Yeah,
I think that,
I think that's how we were talking
Okay.
before,
fine.
but
that way we're not locked in,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, again, it seems helpful to have like a definition section, which I don't know if it ever really like came up, but this is another thing where it could be like during winter months, asterisk, and then in the definition section, we can just say winter months, December through March, or whatever.
Sure, yeah,
Well,
Yeah.
the purpose, for the purpose of protecting deer and many other forms of wildlife that depend on these. We're closing during the winter months. That way, it would be a little harder, to try to punch a hole in that by tweaking the rule.
But Brad, you're not saying that will be in the hemlock stand section, that would be in the rule section?
Yeah, yeah, I mean, we're gonna say something about hemlock here, right? For the winter, because we're talking recreation
Yes.
in the. Is that what you meant when you said hemlock section, this one?
Yep.
Oh, okay, you weren't talking. About the eco section. I just looked to, I don't think there's summer language in the eco section. So we can certainly add that. Yeah, I would just maybe put a reason in here. You know, why we're focusing on the protection. During winter habitat.
Aren't we though?
Yeah, you are, which serve as critical. Oh, you're ahead of me.
Critical wintering habitat.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm kind of feeling we could also just combine these all into one point. Like they're
Yeah.
basically saying the same thing twice. So basically all we're saying is like.
Yeah.
Close trails in and within 300 feet of hemlock stands during winter months, and then,
And maybe, why don't we just say what months those are?
You say it.
yeah, so I'm just gonna rewrite this, just to preserve what we have, for a second. So we could say something like focus on the protection of hemlock stands by, yeah, closing, right, just copy this part, trails. I mean, yeah, I mean, we're basically saying the same thing twice, so I feel like we could just say, we could just keep it the rest as it was to maintain.
Leave this one.
What's that?
What if just that sentence worked, the closed trails, the second bullet alone?
Yeah, basically,
That really covers that.
yeah, I mean,
And then skip 1 and 3.
well, yeah, I was just rewriting, so basically we can just get rid of 3 and we can just do it like this, so. Oops,
Oops.
does that look good? Focus on protection of hemlock stands by closing trails in and within 300 feet of hemlock stand. Do we need in and within?
I don't even, I mean, I was
think it
thinking
just
you
be
could just
within.
start it closed, couldn't you? As you say, closed trails within 300 feet,
Mhm.
and then the purpose,
Yeah.
because here you got purpose.
By closing trails within 300 feet of hemlock stands during winter months to maintain the critical roles these areas play in sheltering deer and other species from harsh weather. That's
Yeah.
pretty comprehensive, right?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is you could kill those words. And
Which one?
Start with close, start with a verb,
Okay,
and get rid of focus on protection.
okay.
I don't know what that.
Yeah, I guess you're right. We can just say,
Well, because you got the reason.
all right, so
built
we're
in.
just, basically all we're doing here is just leaving the second bullet as it was, and then just get rid of this. Okay, so we can get rid of the other thing, but we do need to put a note in to make sure we move this language to the eco section.
Yeah.
I would love to remove it from the rec section, so we don't have a bunch of relics of.
Yeah, I'll pick it up. Yeah, because I don't think it's in, we talk about hemlock, but it's winter.
Okay, so yeah, just as long as that's reflected in the notes.
Yep.
Um,
I'm looking at the appendix. of the
you got it? Okay, great. So let's just get rid of this entire bullet. So now we have. Just,
A little too much.
did I? Well, we're getting rid of this one, right? Because this is just restating, what was said before. The spacing's a little weird, but I'm not gonna worry about that right now because. That's something we figure out later. Okay, so,
And it's okay that it's just winter months, that's.
oh yeah, we could,
Or do we? You want to define it
we
there?
could define it,
elsewhere?
like. Do we want December through March?
Instead of putting that in the rules.
We could do it in both places. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
that way, so somebody doesn't have to go, it's not that hard to put the text here and then that way they don't have to go find some other thing that says, well, what
Aren't we
are.
gonna How about April 30th? Because we've got the whole spring issue too.
No,
Yeah.
but in
Right up
theory,
there.
it's the like, I'm trying to think, it's the, say, the snowshoer. Who
Right.
would go into the hemlock stand
That's
that we
true.
want to keep out, right? Is
Yeah.
that-
Yeah, I think you're right about April being better, because one thing that's worth pointing out is that the most critical time to leave animals be in the forest is late spring, because that's when all of their, reserves are depleted. There's a strong argument to be made for putting more on the back end.
Yeah.
Because if you spend all winter protecting them, but then get in there, before they have a chance to eat and bulk back up, and then, you run them ragged that last month or two, then they might die, so I think April is good. And because there's also mud and we're gonna be managing trails for that, I don't think it's gonna cause a huge problem for us to keep the trail closed through April.
Would the trails, the existing trails like Urbanic in theory that's a hemlock stand, right? A lot of that.
Might get close-ish to some hemlock, but yeah, I guess that's a good point.
Which I think that's reasonable, like
I guess, I mean, it's, yeah, I don't know,
it's low down, low
It's
elevation.
Near Hemlock.
but it's probably within 300 feet.
Yeah, because there's a stream over there. Yeah.
So do we want to call that out? Because otherwise,
I don't think we have to call it out. I'm just,
well, we might want to, because unless we want to close Urbanic during the winter.
I think that's reasonable. If that's the goal here to allow
Yeah.
for, then.
It's a small,
I bet it
my
doesn't.
understanding is it's pretty small, and it's probably, I don't know, I guess I don't actually know if it's getting a bunch of traffic.
I think if people are snowshoeing up the road and on the Bass Trail, that's pretty reasonable, right?
It's lower elevation, so less likely actually to have snow cover
Yeah, south facing and
on Urbanic.
The deer yard definition, if we just stick it with deer, is south facing though. So that's really not, so maybe.
Yeah, the two main places I'm thinking of are like where it forks, where we walked, like what, last weekend, where there's like the fork up at the top of ACF, and there's like a hemlock stand right in that right angle, and then the other one's Hemlock Valley. Like, to me, those are,
oh,
I
yeah.
believe, the two biggest and most significant hemlock zones in the forest. I think they're both south facing, and those are deeper in the forest, and I've seen deer in them.
Yeah,
Like, I know
sure.
they're pretty well used in the winter. So the other one I can't really speak to. It's a lot smaller.
In the west there?
Yes.
Those are-
Oh yeah, there's that one too. Yeah, I guess I'm thinking of. It's funny because there's definitely one here, but maybe it's because it's like too far. Maybe a lot of it's like technically not in the ACF, but there's definitely one there. But yeah, Hemlock Valley is a big one. Yeah, I guess you're right. All of them though are, almost all of them except for this little thing down here, right?
Yeah.
That's the one we're
that's
talking
your
about.
Urbanic.
So that one I feel like is so small, and it's like, I don't know.
Is it
It might be a-
dark valley? I mean, cause that,
Yeah, I just feel like we could put an exception.
I would think, if
This is-
organic it allows these animals to access lower terrain where, especially like April, we're talking about when they're stressed, it's probably a reasonable idea to keep that closed
I don't know.
for
I
all
feel
those
like-
reasons and let that be a corridor of wildlife traffic.
Yeah, it's not marked as a corridor. And I don't know, I guess
Just because of the elevation though,
a stream.
it is a stream. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I feel like in the spirit of compromise and like not shutting down one of the main trails we have in the forest, I feel like we're doing a lot to, like, if you collect all of the hemlock forest that we have, and we abide by them in the northern section, we're protecting like 95% of the hemlock in the forest. And then there's that one little section that we're managing more for recreation. I don't think it's that unreasonable for us to ease up. Otherwise, we do need to close Urbanic all winter,
Should
which I
we,
think is going to, I don't think it's really worth it. I don't think there's that great of a benefit to the wildlife, and I think it heavily impacts recreational users. especially once we fully open the forest, we're saying like, hey, come snowshoe, come, come ski, but you can only use like the utility road, you can't use like urbanic. I think people are gonna be like, well, that's. We want to have a place that people can go so that the other places we can tell them not to go, right? Like if there ever ends up being a trail in the northern section that's a summer trail that goes through Hemlock. If we're saying, well, you can't go to Urbanic and you can't go to this other one, they might just say like, well, I don't care. I'm just going to go wherever I want, right? Whereas if you're saying like, well, here's where we're directing traffic in the winter, go by this one. I think that helps control the traffic in a place that we want to put it. It's much lower impact.
Yep.
But maybe.
Then we would have to write
Yes, we would have to write that in
an
here.
exception in.
And this is the only temporal, trail related thing. So we'd only need to put it in Hemlock. I don't think we'd have to put it anywhere else because
Yep.
there's nothing else that we're doing seasonally.
This is one of the few things that applies to, there's no grandfather on this one.
We seem to be coming to a kind of a pause place where we can pause at, after Hemlock. So, and I'm recognizing the timing. I'm suggesting that we call it a day at this point. Truncate the discussion of recreation. We haven't gotten to the appendix, but we pause here and pick it up again next meeting. That's
So
my
are we-
suggestion.
So we don't do the 110 minutes stuff.
So
So we wouldn't be doing the 110 that we allotted.
Yeah, the times
Should
got
that
messed
Is that an
Right.
error?
The times got messed up on here, it looks like, because we the top of it,
Yeah,
we had the general agreement that we were going to be doing 2.5 hour meetings, and then the top of the agenda says 6 to 8:30, but then it looks like I forgot to time it out to 8:30 at the bottom of this. So it says closure 7:50, but we're well past that. We're 22 minutes past 7:50. 12 minutes past 8. So
I thought we were going to 8:30.
I thought so too.
Yeah, let's just go to 8:30.
Yeah, I would love to use the time that we have, even if
We're
it's not
off
like the
here already.
most convenient stopping point. But that said, before we talk
isn't that the last?
until we get
Well-
to trail approval and trail deviation,
Oh, I see.
there's still more to the rec section.
That's the pause you were talking about.
Yes.
I got you.
So we've got one more sentence to put the Hemlock, right?
Yes, we still,
Thank you.
yes, thank you.
If we replace the word maintain with protect, do we, are we saying more of what we mean?
I think you're right. I like that. Does anyone have a
Yeah.
problem with that?
I like that.
That's good. So do we want to say closed trails in the northern zone? Or?
To allow.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, that works.
That reads weird to me now. Closed trails in the northern zone within 300 feet of hemlock stands.
Mhm.
How about? Does this read better to folks? Like in the northern zone,
Yeah.
closed trails within 300 feet.
That's cool.
That's great.
Cool. All right.
Yep.
Wonderful. Hey, we made
did
it
it.
through. Yeah, so we essentially have. I mean, based on the agenda. I don't know. I feel like some of the times on here got messed up. I'm not sure what happened here because it says close your 5 minutes, but then I guess it has us ending 5 minutes early. If we can get through that in 5 minutes, then we have 10 more minutes that we can work on the management plan if we're working till 8:30. So I guess we should use those 10 minutes, right? So trail approval process. I guess I don't know if anyone's commented on the section yet. So we can just kind of, I guess, go through it. This was basically my stab at like making sure we don't miss any steps. If somebody, some member of the Richmond community decides, hey, I think it'd be great if we had another trail in the forest. I don't think that all the trails need to come from this committee, right? We should be open to other people proposing trails, and there's a process for, basically accepting feedback. Making sure that it meets the parameters, and basically that there's an actual need for the trail, so this was like trying to be comprehensive about like, well, here are all the steps that you need to make sure that you adhere to if we're developing any new trails in the forest. And that would apply to anyone on this committee proposing a trail, or anyone, outside of the committee proposing a trail. So yeah, basically, like the big points being, first you need to document the need of the trail, the purpose of it, and identify the route. The committee would review it. Then you'd have to do expert review and flagging. Then you'd have to do an overlay to make sure that it's in compliance with all the buffers that we're talking about and all these parameters that we just went through. And then there's committee review and public input. And then there's regulatory and legal compliance, zoning stuff. And then there's approval and permitting, and then there's construction and stewardship. So just like maintaining the trail. So it's kind of a long list, like it's a little exhaustive, but it felt, I don't know, I like to have a checklist, so to speak, to make sure that we don't miss anything.
Yeah.
And to make sure that like we
I think it's
Yeah.
also really helpful if the Trails Committee was gonna, attempt this, they had
just know what you're getting
Set
yourself
guidance.
into.
Yeah.
Yeah, where it's like, okay, they are gonna ask me, what's the purpose of the trail? And like, have I walked the route? And like, do I know that it's,
And I think every bullet should have, I would say, a written response.
yeah, you would, this is like
Yeah.
basically.
Checkbox.
Mhm.
I mean, I think there are a little bit of the zoning stuff would be, that's a little bit up in the air right now, and it would run through the DRB presumably. So I wonder if that would be a little,
It's true, but it's pretty open-ended right now, where it's ensure compliance with Richmond zoning, state and federal regulations, and then prepare supporting documents as needed, site plans and ENS control plans. Like
Yeah,
if the
so-
Richmond zoning plans change, then like that's still covered by what's written down here.
yeah, I guess it relies on the as needed verbiage.
As needed.
As needed,
Right,
so
'cause
if
the
they're no
DRB
longer,
might say.
if
"We
they're no
don't
longer
need
needed, then-
An erosion control plan, that's unnecessary.
sure, yeah, then you wouldn't need them.
Right, okay.
But this is also some like kind of a reminder to us and to anyone else who's proposing a trail that like these are things that you might need to consider, right? Like if we do need site plans and ENS plans for a trail, that might change the proposed route of a trail. So what I wanted to do was like lay out, here's a list of all the things you need to consider if you want to put a trail in, so you don't put all this time and effort into trying to get a trail into the forest, and then suddenly you realize, oh no, I didn't realize there was going to be like a requirement for like a site plan or like an ENS plan. So this is like trying to be really transparent with everybody. It's not only keeping us accountable and trying to make sure that we don't slip up and miss anything along the way, but also anyone who has any desire to pursue putting a trail in the forest will have a clear roadmap of what it looks like. So there are no surprises and they can be well prepared and know what they're getting themselves into.
Right. But yeah, I mean, an erosion control plan for a trail it could be weird. It could be very expensive. It could be unnecessary. So as long as this document is written in such a way that this committee would allow a proposal to go in front of the DRB without that,
Yeah.
I think then it would work. But if this committee said, nope, you got to have an erosion and sediment control plan before you can proceed to the DRB, that could be pretty cumbersome.
Should we change? I mean, we could change something like as needed to like if necessary. I mean, essentially means the same thing, but if that's
As long as
Through the science of it, yeah.
right.
And it wouldn't be the user group or us that goes before the DRB. it would be the select board who might ask us to go. Cause they are the controller, they are the property owner, if you will.
Yes, yeah.
So they could delegate it to us or a user group, but we'd have to go to the select board. If it's going to
So you feel like the sort of.
I don't really have an opinion, but just that we are not the decider when
I see what you're saying, right?
if it has to go to the zoning administrator for an approval, we've got to get I think we've got to get at least the town manager on board that this is what we're doing. And then,
Just 30,000 foot view. I think this is really thorough and great, but it strikes me a little bit odd, like most places build out their plan, put in their trails, and then you're done.
Mhm.
Like, do we really want to be considering one-off trails mid overall plan update, or do we want to be like looking at this each time? I can't remember, was it every 5 years or every 10 years that the plan gets updated? And
So, yeah.
that's when you would like, otherwise we're gonna have a constant stream of individual trail proposals, which
Yeah, I get-
strikes me
yeah.
a little bit odd.
Yeah, my thought was that this kind of came out of I guess this was generated around the same time that there was a desire to do like concurrent like trail development at the same time that we were working on the management plan. And also the whole cycle of like, well, that we had the trail plan, which then triggered the update of the management plan. And through all that, I guess maybe like, I don't know if everyone feels the same way about this as I do, but I feel like you can't come up with a trail before you have the parameters for what's an acceptable trail, right? Which is where the trail parameters came from. So to me, I feel like it's inappropriate to have the trail map even as part of the management plan, because like, I feel like that's entirely separate. I feel like the management plan is the foundation for what you can, like, for how you can do anything responsible in the forest, right? We're laying out all the ground rules for how you can do any business in the forest, whether that's, logging, hunting, or trail development. So to me, the reason I put this in here is like, I feel like this applies to that any additional trails that would go in, I guess, at the same time as this like management plan update. But like right now, we've talked about like, I mean, to turn back the clock, all the work we're doing on the management plan is related to that trail map that was voted on and that was approved by, that was published, I guess, by or created by
I think
Cindy
that's what I'm saying. So like, it's taken us all this time to update the management plan,
Yeah.
then get a trail plan.
Yeah.
So I could see this process being followed the next time we update the trail plan and management plan, but not like every year.
Oh, so you're just saying we'd add one more thing that would be like only consider new trail development during a like management plan
Each
update.
time the big picture, because you want to,
I don't think the trail development occurs on that same pace, it could be every year. I don't think it would be, but I don't think it would necessarily line up with when the management plan was being redone either. You might have a unique opportunity where VYCC had, availability or something, and we could put them to use in the town forest, and the whole thing comes together. You get a real motivated volunteer, and the Richmond Running Club is excited about having a pedestrian trail, and I don't know, but it may just happen.
I agree with that. And I think
okay,
user groups are going to be coming to this committee with proposals because they have the expertise that I don't have, for example, and they have the energy that I may not have as a community. So I think we're going to see folks coming to us requesting a trail.
And that's, I think, why you have to document the need, the purpose, and whatnot. And also we have the parameters. Like, there's only so many, with the parameters we put in place with all the natural communities and all the buffers and like the north and the south, there's only so many, there's a finite number of trails you could even put in the forest. I'm not saying that every nook and cranny that could fit a trail within the buffers should go in. But that's part of the process is like, well, one, we've got a hard cap on the number of trails you can even put in because of all the buffers. And then two, they're gonna have to document the need. And there, if it's just like, well, we just want more biking trails, and there's no other real like reason, it'd be like, well, I don't know if that really counts, right? If somebody's like, well, I want something that's wheelchair accessible and there's nothing in the forest that's like wheelchair accessible, that'd be a different story, because then it's like, oh, we're trying to be open to more user types. Like we see a need for the trail. So I feel like it is pretty technical in terms of like, you have to justify like why you're, submitting, you're proposing a new trail. And I feel like that's enough between the buffers and this, long list of things that you need to get past, that we're not going to see like every few months, somebody being like, hey, let's put another trail, let's put another trail, let's put another trail. I think that it's going to be, a lot.
Well, if it does come up, this would be a good guideline, so.
Could you consider adding to the first bullet about on the financial side of things, who's gonna pay for it?
Oh, yeah. Under document the need, purpose, and identify the most route.
Estimated costs that you go there.
Right.
Yeah, and funding source.
Funding.
Estimated costs and funding sources.
Oh, yes, okay.
Thanks.
Now, is there a way for us to initiate a trail
This committee?
through here? Yeah.
I think anyone can.
Yeah.
Like,
So the committee, it's that line that says, bring it to the committee.
Isn't-
We are.
yeah, I don't know if we need to like enumerate who can, I mean, unless we want to say like, we don't want proposals from people that like aren't a Richmond resident, if some.
No, it's obvious. I mean, if we do it, we are definitely bringing that proposal to the committee because we are the committee.
Yeah.
And it still has to,
this.
and we still have to
Template.
follow these rules like anybody.
Yeah, everyone would have to.
Yeah.
Maybe
If we,
recuse yourself from a vote or something. I don't know.
That's
you only would need to if it provides you greater benefit than anyone else in the town, right? So like maybe if Wright was like, I want a trail that's gonna connect to like my property, or like if Sonia wanted to do something that was gonna connect to like, make it more convenient for her, then maybe, you'd have to recuse yourself in a situation like that, if it provided you greater benefit than anyone else.
Olympic-sized pools.
Somebody watched the videos.
I did, I sure did.
A plus.
check. Understand.
Okay, well, we're at about time here, so I guess this is something worth considering as we move forward. I'm glad that we finally made it through the parameters section. I guess I would say for next meeting, we'll be talking more about the end of the rec section. So if everyone could make sure that they look through both the trail approval process section and the trail deviation process. I would say between now and next meeting.
Right.
Take a moment to look at those sections and write your comments, right? We're a lot more efficient when we've been going through and we have, red or blue comments or whatever. So please, everyone, I think we'll be meeting in approximately 2 more weeks. I guess we'll talk about that in a second, but look at these, send me your feedback directly. I can put them all together. We always send our stuff off to Duncan the Friday before our Monday meetings. So, and I would need a few days to put that together, so.
Are we also gonna draw a line and say?
I can move the line. I don't know why my Zoom was being weird now. Oh, it's good, it's booted me. Oh, I just lost internet, huh? I blame the Richmond
Sounds good.
hotspot.
Good job, everybody.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So I guess, it doesn't matter if I'm not connected. Let me just look to see, the last business is, business for upcoming meetings. I just want to keep working on the management plan unless we hear differently from the select board. So we talked about the thing that I'm going to write up and send to them. I'll just like BCC them, I guess, and just send them our statement. And if they're like, hey, you should really bring this to the select board, I guess we'll be on the select board and I'll notify you guys, and you guys can show up or not. I'm happy to go solo, but if anyone wants to show up.
We'll go back you up.
Cool. Yeah. So we got that. Yeah, future meetings, we've got, I think we should keep on this 2-week cadence that people can handle it. Our normally scheduled meeting, would be the 27th, of October. In the meantime, our options are 10/6 or 10/13. So, in 2 weeks from today or in 3 weeks from today, I will point out that the 13th is Columbus Day or Indigenous Peoples' Day, so I don't know if that affects people's like work schedules or, some people have that off. So
I'll endorse the 13th.
the 13th,
Yeah, actually, I guess Monday, we've got 5 Mondays in October. So the 6th is the 2nd, the 13th would be the 3rd, and the 27th would be the 5th, so I would.
The 6th is the first Monday.
yeah, the 6th is the first
Just
Monday.
for-
There are only 4 Mondays.
I'm sorry,
It's all right.
I'm not counting right.
It's all good.
Okay, so normally we would meet on the 4th, which is, thanks, the 27th.
Yeah, so the 27th is locked in. Are we cool? Does anyone have an issue with the 13th? That's 3 weeks from today. So that gives us a few weeks to really look at the next 2 sections, provide plenty of comments.
I'll probably have to zoom in. Deal.
Okay.
Personally, I have a conflict on the 2nd Monday, a long-standing meeting that I should attend. So I know last time we did a kind of a compromise and started at 6:30, so I could do 30 minutes on my other meeting and then join this one, but join remotely, that's what I did.
Okay, that's fine.
So, I mean, I have to be imposing this with my schedule, but if everyone's okay with 6:30 start.
So we want to do 6:30 to 9.
Issue with the Iowa accumulation.
Are people okay with that? Doing this
On the 13th?
on the 13th, 6:30 to 9 instead of a 6 to 8:30?
I don't know if.
I'll do whatever.
Yeah, I'm flexible too.
Sorry, I interrupted.
No, you're good. Any strong feelings? Or we could do the 6th, and meet 6 to 8:30, if that's better for people.
I'm fine.
Yeah, either.
Whatever's best for the group.
No strong feelings? All right, well, I guess let's do the 13th then, 6:30 to 9, and then we'll do the 27th, 6 to 8:30.
Yep.
Sound good?
Yep.
Does anyone have any business for upcoming meetings that the co-chair should know about before we make the agenda? Cool. All right, so I guess I'll just remind folks, the last day that we'll want feedback for these sections, if you have comments on either the trail approval process or the trail deviation process, if you can get those comments to me by, I'd say, the 7th. That gives me a couple of days to integrate those comments before we post it in the packet or send it on that Friday. Sound good?
Yeah.
And I'll just follow up with folks, I guess via email, just to remind everybody of that deadline.
And we'll get an email with a possible meeting with Tina in the next month.
True, yes, exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah, we'll fit that in as needed. Cool. I guess would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
I can pass out these,
oh, yeah.
the document.